Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. What's up, DB?
Just trying to make it. Trying to make it.
Trying to make it like the Porcupine Sniper made it from about half court last night?
Man, that's kind of weird. Porcupine Sniper. Oh, Minnesota.
That's, first of all, that damn DB. Okay, let me just set the stage here, in case you weren't listening yesterday, in which case you've been missing winners from DB over here. But yesterday, you're sitting here and you're going, okay, I see an undefeated in-conference Michigan team, and I see an all-defeated in-conference Minnesota team. And you're like, you know what? Not only is the line wrong, I think Minnesota's going to win straight up. Yeah. And then what did we see last night? The Porcupine Assassin going to work.
Isn't he weird to watch?
He's always had sort of a strange game.
You know, he's highly skilled. When he's engaged, he's tough.
He does come off as very like aloof.
Yeah.
Almost like a Tobias Harris, where you're like, there's stretches where you just don't even know he's there.
That's a funny pull. He used to drive me crazy. I'm glad he's never played for a team that I would cheer for.
He's a floater. Those are guys I call floaters.
He looks extremely capable. Like he's 21 a night, just pencil him in if he shows up.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah, 100%.
Tobias Harris. Wow, isn't that something?
And he's like 4 a night if he doesn't show up emotionally.
It's just a weird.
It's a weird league.
Very much so. It was nutty. Did you?
Because you got Northwestern yesterday too, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Northwestern.
Also not a great basketball team.
Lock it up. Catching points. Now what we have to hope is that Maryland continues the road woes.
Yeah.
Well, that's in Maryland, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's at Maryland.
Fudge.
Nebraska basketball is in a little bit of trouble right now. They're in a tough spot.
Well, how about okay, cool. Even though TK doesn't want me to take credit for Minnesota, he's like, you gotta say it's this dude.
Why doesn't he want you to take her from Minnesota?
I don't know. Apparently, I wasn't clear enough, even though I was 100%.
Not a single other soul was taking Minnesota last night. So,
but anyway. How about the scouting report from Rutgers? I said, listen, don't just look at the 3-point percentage.
Mm-hmm.
People that don't watch Rutgers will just look at the 3-point.
And think they can't shoot.
Yeah. What'd I tell you?
You told me that the way Nebraska funnels middle, that they're going to get good looks, and they're capable.
And they're capable of making threes.
It's not that they can't make threes, because some teams shoot bad because they can't make threes. But some teams shoot bad because they take bad shots.
It's just how Rutgers plays. They'll go through these stretches. This dude, I'm cutting him off. He's clearly wrong and doesn't like to be wrong, but that's okay.
I don't know. I sat here and was like, that as a lock. But that's okay.
So when it's like they go through these stretches, 6-7 minutes. So there's two things. Number one, their shot selection is lousy.
Yeah,
right. Talked about that. Number two, you can't really get stops.
Yep.
They're not a very good defensive team. So sometimes when those shots aren't falling, they go through these stretches where people just push leads on them
and they can't score.
But you saw, and there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 stretches during that game. You're like, oh my God, how's Rutgers even in this game?
Here's the problem though that we ran into last night is Nebraska goes through stretches where they can't get a shot off.
Yeah.
Or can't get a good shot off.
It's just
a lot of self-inflicted stuff. Man. Bad shot selection, turnovers, and untimely possessions. That's sort of the perfect storm for Rutgers where they can look really good is when you've got a team that kind of beats itself on offense.
I got to go back and ask you something that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Can Nebraska
I think we've both talked about this.
Well, I think it might have been Sam, and somebody said, well, you got to make more shots. Or
Shafe.
Something like
that. It was Shafe.
Was it Shafe?
Yeah, because I was like, if you got to make more shots, then the answer to this question is no.
I just don't. I don't.
Because you brought it up, and then I asked the question.
I just don't get the sense that they're built to be like a defensive stopping team.
Yeah, and
they're not good enough to get that label.
Yes. I asked.
It's going to have to be some sort of mix.
You brought up the topic, and I asked Shafe the question. I go, hey, are they good enough defensively to be a team that wins on defense, right? And he said, well, they got to make some more shots, which means the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right? If you have to make more shots than you're currently making, then the answer is no, you're not good enough defensively to hang your hat on that. And I think that's the case with Nebraska, right? I get that Harper and Bailey are special offensive talents, but those special offensive talents, and I know they haven't always played together this year, but those special offensive talents have led Rutgers to being 500 basically against everybody else.
Yeah.
So you can't sit here and tell me, oh, the offensive talents are so special that they just don't lose games, because that's not the case. They lose about half their games. Nebraska, and here's the kind of scary thing for if you're Nebraska last night, is Vrzal made shots.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He made 4, so it's like.
I mean, you can't expect a lot more than that from him, right?
No. Not, yeah, for sure. There are just a couple that were ill-advised, but I guess you have to take that with a shooter.
Yeah.
And
especially when he's made a couple.
Then listen, as long as they continue to guard him like a shooter, he gives Nebraska a chance.
He carries his weight.
I just don't know where you can get a couple of other points. I don't know if I've given up. I don't see it being Berke.
I don't either. And Gary is.
I think you have to count Gary, at least at home.
I don't know if you can get more from Gary though.
You won't than you did last night.
Right. That's what I mean. So you can't he can't be the extra.
I count Gary. I count Miller. You were fortunate to get any offense from Mia. So
you all. I mean,
I clearly don't count him.
I mean, you got 20 out of Williams and Gary, and you got 12 out of Vrzal.
I wonder what would happen. And I'm not going to hit panic just yet, but I am curious.
Mm-hmm.
Having watched Cale Jacobson so long,
mm-hmm.
I wonder if he couldn't be a more polished version of Sam Hoiberg.
Yeah.
I just think about that.
Yeah.
Because if he plays long enough, he'll make plays.
Yeah.
Because you're certainly not going to get anything from Ulyss.
No, I don't even know. I don't even know what you do with. I think you just can't play him.
Yeah.
I mean, like at this point, you just can't play him.
I think you're going to get a little from Morgan. I think he is who he is.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Maybe Raleigh is the X factor.
I don't know, man.
I wish he could just do more without having to dribble the ball so much.
He does dribble the ball a ton, like a ton.
So that because that's just not that's not going to be good for that offense.
Well, and he's not as he's dribbling, right? Like it takes a really long time for him to get anywhere or do anything. He's not one of those guys that just kind of puts you in a blender and figure it out, right? Like that's not who he is. And he can get to the rim sometimes and get looks sometimes, but a lot of it is he's just such a big body guy that you kind of like last night, he gets fouled and you can get some points that way, but that's not a sustainable. I don't know that that's sustainable, right? Like I don't know that you can expect more because he gave him 10 last night. I don't know that you can expect more than about that, which, he's averaging 8.5, 9 on the season. Like that's about what he is. I don't know that you can say, I need 15 from you.
And they're trending, right? Once is coincidence. No, once is fluke, two is coincidence.
3 times
more trending. They're trending defensively.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. They don't get any rim protection. So when you're a no middle team and you get ball screens, if you don't keep, it's a philosophical thing, right? You just seen it over and over and over. I could just hear coaches, keep them here, keep them here, keep them here.
Yeah.
When you let Harp get back to the middle, I mean, it's a nightmare.
It's over. Like if you let him get back middle, that's a wrap.
Hey, how nice is he though with both hands?
It's super smooth, like just silky. He's the one I get more. Like I get Bailey because of the physical tools and the projection, but like
Bailey has more people like him though.
Yes, Harper's the one where I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he is.
Like if I'm spending a top 3 pick, I'm spending it on a Harper.
He's way good.
Yeah.
And at some point he'll learn to make free throws.
And just the silky smooth, like change of direction. That's not like a lot of people when they have to cross back over middle, it feels kind of herky jerky.
I've seen kids get benched for letting guys split a double.
Yeah.
Let alone
college guys?
Multiple college guys in a row.
Constantly.
In a row.
Whenever he felt like it.
It's like you...
Especially in that juncture in the game, right? Like it happened late where those are buckets those are stops that Nebraska needs.
Yeah.
And it's like, all you have to do is not let him cross you back middle. And it just was like, oh, see ya, gone. And if you don't have rim protection, it's over.
It's a weird league. It's a weird league.
And it's a weird team. I mean, both of these teams are strange.
Because of Rutgers town. They still.
I meant Rutgers and Nebraska are weird.
So Martini was the guy that I was telling you about that could shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran a couple of nice little pieces, right, where they got him, where they put him in a ball screen in the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard.
Yeah, it really is. Like, that's when
you got the pin down, he popped, and it's like, ugh. And he's going to pass out of that?
Well, and people don't really practice middle of the floor ball screens that much.
I know.
Like, it's always wing.
Well, unless you get the high ones.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you'll get the high ball screen.
Yeah.
And then you play the little two-man game.
But not for shooters,
no,
right?
No, you're right.
That's
you're right.
really,
you're right.
Especially in college.
100, yeah. It is different.
Especially in college. And there's just so much space out there that's really hard to navigate if that's not something you're used to doing.
And I know, like, Nebraska fan, like, if you're watching, if you're there or on TV or whatever, it's like, man, they're so open. That spacing was hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, they were spread out.
They were spread the heck out. I was like, it looks like the court was wider.
It did. It felt like the court was too big, or like the people were smaller. You know,
how many wide open threes was Jones going to get?
As many as he wanted.
I don't know.
Like, you ever seen one of those?
Did you watch any of the Michigan-Minnesota game?
Yeah.
So what did I tell you Michigan's Achilles was?
Backcourt.
Right. Because they have a propensity to not take care of the ball.
Yeah.
This time, early on to start the game, I think Wolf had 4 turnovers.
Immediately.
And like the first 7 possessions.
Yeah.
I'm like.
It's like before the first media timeout.
Like Michigan would have to be maddening.
Yeah.
Was that Matt? I think that was Matty D, right? He's like.
Yeah, when we were talking to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's just like you watch them and it's like, man, they should be better.
They really should.
But then without Gale, without some of those guys off the bounce or taking care of the ball, you're like, I don't know.
For their backcourt being as shaky as it is, like, I actually think they're pretty good.
No, they're way good because they play in a way. They play in a pretty unique way.
Yeah.
I mean, they go big to big.
Yeah,
with ball screens.
The double big is tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Nobody has the personnel for that.
Yeah, FAU's finest too. Isn't that funny with Golden?
Man.
It's like, where'd he come from? So I don't know, man. That's that team I was telling you. That's the team that I
Michigan?
Rutgers.
Oh, Rutgers.
What I was afraid of.
Yeah.
When I sold on them.
Teams like Rutgers are
I don't know why I didn't hop back on against UCLA. That was stealing.
Yeah. Yeah. That team is.
I'm like, wow, 3.5 at home. They're super capable.
That team's
but then I felt like
that team's put it to
I'm
bed.
off from my last 2 talking capable with Rutgers. They just don't want to get any stops. I should have realized that they were playing a team that is offensively challenged like UCLA.
Well, and just wanting to be their challenge like UCLA. You know, I think I think they've put that season to bed already. But teams like Rutgers are the absolute worst teams to play.
Oh, I know. They're going to get a couple more.
Like the hyper-talented underachievers, because nothing Nebraska did last night was going to be a win. It was either a loss or a neutral. You beat Rutgers, that's a neutral. It's I'm at home.
I held serve.
Yeah, you don't get any credit for that. But that's a team that could beat – when you've got 2 guys that are that good, especially a guard and Harper, you can beat anybody on any given night, like actually anybody. When you've got 2 of the top 3 players in the next draft, you can beat anybody.
Especially if they get just a little bit of help from anybody else.
Yeah, like if Martini makes 3 threes, like curtains.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And so they're extremely capable, as you've said, and you get no credit for beating them. So that's the worst type of team to play. And we talked about it yesterday, and Nebraska got bit by it. But you're right. There were how many half a dozen times you look at that game, and it felt like Nebraska was about to blow Rutgers out.
I know. And it
was just right there.
And some of those like contested pull-ups, you're like, gross.
Yeah.
But they hit them.
I also I know you ragged on Rutgers for their shot selection, and rightfully so. Like Nebraska has some moments.
See, so when you said that, and I'm not picking on him because they needed his shooting, so hear my heart.
Yeah.
I didn't like a couple of the rush threes that Asijan took.
No, I get it.
I'm like,
yeah,
bro, that's from like 29. We got to chill. Like, we could get something better out of the timeout.
For sure.
You know.
But that's kind of what you have to live with.
I know.
Right?
Listen, I'm with you. I'm not gonna
like.
I'm not gonna belabor that point.
It's one of those where I get it. There's somewhere like I don't love that shot, but especially with a shooter like Asijan, who he's not. I don't know. Like I feel like you could get the ball to Isaac Trout, and he doesn't really. He's not going to probably take any bad ones.
Yeah.
Right. And
although the heat check that he buried from the corner the other night was pretty classic.
It was, right? But that's like a pretty unusual thing for Isaac Trout, right? Yeah. Is any sort of heat check. And then, of course, they never let him touch the ball again, even though he made it.
I mean, just the night in general.
Yeah.
Right, I know the Temple, like the broadcast was a struggle. Speaking of which, I'm not going to do that. I try not to get on. Being a collegiate broadcaster, I try not to get on college broadcast.
Well, this is Greg McElroy, and then I'll kill him.
People could get on me on the radio, but I know you probably didn't flip over to
which one?
Nebraska, Iowa women's.
I caught a little bit of it.
Oh my God! I'm going back to my boys. But in my house, my house is a mess because I didn't feel good, and everybody's like sectioned off, and now Zoe doesn't feel good. So to bring Alexa into where I was to get the broadcast. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a hassle, but I didn't want to use my phone because I was watching my phone.
Yeah.
For another game, which, by the way, 2 nights ago was one of the greatest quad boxes I'd ever seen.
What was that?
It's Pitt, North Carolina.
Okay.
Who was in the bottom right? Texas, Georgia, maybe.
Okay.
Up top was Iowa State, or no, it was Texas Tech. No, who was up top right? Anyway, it was 4 really good games. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, you almost never see this.
Yeah. Usually it's
you almost never
2
see
at best.
But I did figure out they're messing with me a little bit on how to build the multi-view media.
Mm-hmm.
But they still don't give you enough
options.
Yeah. Just let me put it together.
Yeah.
I could pick 4.
Yeah. Well, it's a broadcaster, it's whoever the broadcaster is, they don't play nice with everybody, right? So you can't get which I'm paying for all the channels. Let me do what I want.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care if they play nice. I'm paying
as long
play
as
nice.
It's on there and it's YouTube TV. Let me a la carte.
If I pay for all the channels, I should be able to do whatever I want with them.
Yeah. Think. What'd you think of Memphis?
I don't know what to think of Memphis.
I don't either. I think the middle of the top 20 is crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago, Houston was 14, so it's
Yeah, I don't know that the rankings are terribly reflective.
You saw the number 16 team in the country last night. Your favorite.
My favorite.
I thought of you because he's changed his hair and he's wearing a headband to keep the braids out of his face.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if you hit Nimhard up.
No, I haven't talked to him.
Oregon State hit the X button on them and
haven't talked to them.
They just melted down the stretch. I know they hit the 3 to tie it, make it 83-83 to send it in OT, but
yeah,
no bueno in OT.
Yeah, I that's not my haven't had a lot of conversations with good old Ryan lately.
So it's I don't know.
Hasn't been sliding in my DMs or anything.
You talked about what was going to happen with Creighton and projections and settling and deal or no deal.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, college basketball is going to be nuts.
Yeah. There is.
I mean, nuts.
I mean, right now, maybe you say Duke is at the top.
I'm not yet, but I'm not going to fight you over that. It wouldn't be my pick.
So if I give you a handful of teams, are you willing to put them in a tier?
I think there's 4.
So
I think there's 4 that are in
Iowa
tier.
State.
Correct.
Auburn.
Correct.
Do you put Duke in that first tier?
Correct.
And Tennessee?
Correct.
Yeah. That's the 4 I would have given you in terms of
those are the 4.
This is kind of the top tier. Mm-hmm. Now I do think that tier is closer to the next tier than it often is. I don't know that there's clear separation.
Who's 5?
I don't know. How do you feel about Bama and Florida?
I like Florida more than Bama.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Like, is Florida super far out of that group?
Probably not. That backcourt is saucy. Length.
Yeah.
They can switch everything. They'll shoot it well enough. I like Florida. I think they're tough too.
Yeah.
I think they're well coached.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's correct. I think that's right. I would agree there.
Their length is. I like. That's a good one. I may cut it off there. I may cut it off with
at 5 instead.
5 and 6 with Bama and Florida.
Okay, so you got 6, and then you've got. I think there is a pretty clear delineation there, where I don't think Marquette, Kentucky, Kansas, which is kind of your.
Have you seen?
Because I mean, you're not enamored with Michigan State, right? Or are you? Or they're growing on you.
They're growing on me because they're versatile.
Yeah, and they're getting better.
They're growing on me because they are versatile.
And I know you like Houston.
Yep,
a lot.
Yep. I just worry about Houston being able to score.
I always worry about Houston being able to score
this year more
always.
Than any. Although I told you, Crier's shooting
Crier's shooting it really well.
He shooting like 43% from 3.
Yeah.
Well,
they've got two guys.
I think he's like 41.
You have 2 guys north of 40.
Yeah.
Right. You have
and
at like 47 or 48.
He's second in the country.
Yeah. So you've got 2 guys north
just
of 40.
Ahead of
Eric Dixon.
Mason Dixon line.
Mason the line. You big Rocky Balboa fan?
I did not like Tarver when he was boxing.
Yeah.
Although I did like what he did to Roy Jones. What's your excuse now, Roy?
I forgot you hated Roy Jones.
That's a little strong.
Not a big fan. Fair?
Yeah, closer to the H word, but yeah. And it's irrational. But it's I do know why. Yeah. Because he beat James Toney.
Oh, yeah.
And he beat Bernard Hopkins. So the disdain grew rapidly.
And we know you love B-Hop.
Yes, I do.
Coming up next, we will set up the show, let you know who we've got on this Friday for you. We'll have more college hoops. We've got more Nebraska basketball. And, of course, we'll preview a huge weekend of NFL football as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. Reminding you, get out to hurrdatsports.com/win tickets for a chance to win 4 tickets to the Omaha Supernovas match against the San Diego Mojo at CHI on Sunday at 3 p.m. That's hurrdatsports.com/win tickets, or just scan the QR code during our breaks for your chance to win. The Omaha Supernovas will be back at home on Sunday. DB, there's another super big event this weekend.
I know, and I wanted to normally.
We would have called Coach Manning.
Yeah, and I would venture down there tonight, but I feel like trash, so your boy is just going to probably shut it down and watch it on TV. But I've been floored all week. We've been talking about this all
Yeah.
All week.
100%.
Top 6 matchup. Penn State rolls into town. Coach Manning is imploring the fans.
Going to white out.
Was it white or red?
I thought he said white, but I don't remember.
It's one of the colors.
Yeah,
right?
I might be confusing it because Penn State and whiteouts.
This raucous environment tonight for the number 1 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a new wrestling buddy that I can talk to. So I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody besides Cody.
Yeah. So he hit me. So I know he knows what he's talking about because I was just dabbling with Sautter about some things with Ziola,
mm-hmm.
and he was like all in, and he took it like 2 steps further
mm-hmm.
than I was even thinking. And I was like, okay, I'm in. That's my new friend.
Yeah.
But anyway, I say all that to say and
you got Penn State tonight. Nebraska, yes. Penn State, top 6 matchup.
Yes.
So top 6 matchup, you would think, should be pretty close, right?
Yes.
That is not what the experts believe.
Penn State is favored
mm-hmm.
by 33 points.
That's all of them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all the points.
What did I say Monday walking out of that door when I had to go get a Kleenex?
You said it might be 33-0.
It could be it could. I said it could literally be 33-0.
Yeah. Which for novices like me that don't know wrestling, that's all the points.
It's incredible.
Yeah. This is a top 6 matchup. Here's the thing that I'm having a hard time wrapping my.
They are so good. But I'm telling you, man, I don't know, man.
You got a little feeling?
No,
Okay.
because I'm telling you, when I say incredible lineup for Penn State, it's incredible.
What's the depth, right?
Yes.
More than anything?
Yes. I saw
What is it?
I saw a look ahead.
What is it? 9 top 5 guys they got?
Yeah, Shane, it's incredible. I mean, their wrestling, like their wrestling-off's got to be insane.
Yeah. I'm having such a hard time.
There's a closet. I need you to call your guy.
Which one?
And then you got to hit up Degenerate Aaron, because the precursor to that is Illinois and Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
And Aaron was like, he's a big wrestling guy. He's like, hey, he goes, man, if Illinois doesn't, if they nut up, like they got some for Iowa if they're not shell shocked. I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
like,
they got some good dudes.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. So I'm like,
and I'm not just biased because my buddy's the team pastor.
So
Good morning again.
Oh my gosh, is this gonna be Westside, Papio South? I don't think I should leave the house, but
yeah,
I mean, no disrespect to getting you sick. I appreciate you hanging out.
I put up an invisible shield. We're okay,
bro. I was laying on the floor this morning.
Yeah,
and weird, like I got stepped right over. Not hey, you good? Or I mean, listen, I'm not even exaggerating. Just stepped over. Just kept it moving.
Yeah, keep on trucking.
Man, I was so out.
You know how I know you weren't feeling well?
Why?
Because I walked in this morning much later than I normally do.
Oh, and I didn't
say a word.
Yeah, I didn't have it in me.
You're usually just like, oh, thanks for showing up today.
Yeah. So it's just now starting to. I think I took some semblance of 37 pills.
Yeah.
I mean, Coricidin, Tylenol. I told you I'm already the human lab rat, right?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like when I get sick, I just start throwing stuff at it.
And that's on top of like 9 vitamins.
Yeah,
so
I just start throwing stuff at it. I was like, I'm not getting sick. Let's go.
I think it's starting to. Yeah. So my new dude, my new wrestling dude is Dr. Octagon.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I can call him that. I may have to get a real name.
You call him Doc Ock. Like you big Spider-Man guy?
Yeah, but you know what's funny?
Yeah, not a big Doc Ock guy?
No, except for I liked him in No Way Home because he actually had
Alfred Molina
in a semblance of like a heart.
Yeah,
like he actually tried to help.
I like complex villains.
The Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Do you? What is a complex villain?
It's a villain that has
like Jax.
Sure. Oh, that's like an anti-hero more.
Didn't I ask about an anti-hero one year, Shane?
You probably did.
That phenomenon confuses me. But
so it's like guys that you want to root for and guys that are ultimately good, but that have a lot of flaws along the way.
Oh, that's Gemma.
Well, do you want to root for Gemma?
No, she was.
So that, you want to root for Jax though, right? But he does a lot of terrible things.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm all in on
like Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders, anti-hero.
Sometimes the anti-hero.
Oh, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, you love him, right? Does some horrible things.
This is so bad. So 2 things.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing. Like, this is so bad. So there are times I'm watching this, and this one of the last ones was on the plane. I'm like, you know what? He's awful, but at least he's principled.
Yeah.
Like, he has his principles. And the other thing was, and I didn't have the heart to tell him, but Les and I have been going back and forth the last couple of days about, like, I just told him that I like lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Because he sent me this post on how to study and do cuts and stuff for meat and like what you should get in poundage. Like, and I told you that's when I fell in love with Brett. Like, I just watched him 6 years ago on a cheat sheet with a pencil. I'm like, oh my God, I love numbers. So I was telling Les, I was like, man, I love stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at the post, and it started from, it's like, hey, we had all these questions about lamb yesterday, so I thought I would do it with beef too. And I text Les, I was like, hey,
my beef guy,
I love lamb. Like, does he do this with lamb? And he's like, hey, I know a couple guys that raise sheep. Let me do some homework. And I almost followed up with, it's kind of morbid, Les, but if anybody hurt my family and I'm on death row, I'm going with lamb chops. Do they still do last meals?
I think so.
But I didn't. It wouldn't have come across right in text. Like,
sure,
he's gonna be like, this dude's a whack-a-mole.
You're like nut job.
But I'm not.
But no. Hey, I want to give Cody more than 2 minutes here.
You gonna get him on the back end?
Let's get him. No,
he may have to go to work.
Okay, let's get Cody real quick.
Let's see if he has to go to work.
Yeah, Hey,
and then we can tell them to hang on.
we got Cody, Commander Cody, our wrestling guy. What's going on, Cody?
What's going on, gentlemen? How we doing?
We're doing good. Hey, how much time you got before you got to go to work?
I got all the time in the world.
All right, let's hit you.
Can you call back at 8:30?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because we got no. Let's get him now because we got Coach Limongi.
Okay. All right, let's go, Cody. What do we got?
Cody, 30. When's the last time you saw a line set at 33 in wrestling? Between two top, I would say 10, but shoot, man, top 6, never.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty wide. I mean, what was Penn State Iowa last year was 23.
Yeah, and I saw a projected line where Penn State, Okie State would be 27.
Yeah, and I mean I get it. It's Penn State, but I mean I'm not sleeping on Nebraska. There's some matches that I don't feel great about, but
Cody,
I think there's some.
Tell me this as like a novice, right? Like, is the gap actually that big?
No. I think there's a lot that they're still holding against Nebraska from the UNI duel, which go back and look in history of Nebraska coming out of Christmas break.
There's always that egg they lay. There's usually one after Vegas and one after break.
Correct. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, and UNI always gets up for Nebraska. I don't know what it is. They always are ready to go for Nebraska. And it seems like Nebraska, I don't think, gives UNI the respect they deserve. I mean, they're a top 10 team. But so I think there's a lot of retrospect looking at the UNI duel. So they're going off that. Ridge has not been wrestling like Ridge normally does. So I don't know if they think Van Ness is going to get Ridge. Antrell has been Antrell's been wrestling. He wrestled 2 back-to-back top 10 guys. So obviously he's not going to be putting up the scores he was putting up before Christmas. I mean, he had to step up in competition. So it'll be tough. Caleb Smith, same thing. He's not been wrestling what we see out of Caleb Smith normally.
High Point
so
finest.
I think there's a lot that is put on that.
What color did Coach Manning ask for? Was it red or white tonight?
Oh, I'm guessing red. I haven't seen it yet. I was pretty busy last night. We were up setting up Skyler for the Skyler invite, and then trying to get everything out on Cade versus Tony Palmer, which Cade's an absolute animal.
Yeah, that athleticism wasn't enough, was it? Nope.
No.
Cody, appreciate the call. Enjoy the match this weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we are joined now by Coach Paul Limongi, head football coach at Omaha Westside. Coach, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. So I got to ask you, Coach, did you know when Shane contacted you that you were coming on to talk to DB this morning, or would you still have said yes if you knew that?
I did. I was not sure. But when I answered the phone this morning, they said Hurrdat, and I was confident that Damon would be on.
Hey, I do appreciate you checking on me Tuesday, man. How are you feeling, man? It's always good to hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm almost up to 100%. Feeling stronger, so I get a couple more tests done and hopefully be able to start working out again and be full throttle.
Is that the hardest part? Because I know you want to sneak in some lifts at school, so that's frowned upon. So what, is that killing you?
Yeah, I just want to get my strength back and start moving around a little bit.
So you can bully us at practice? Like, you're fine. It'll be okay.
Yeah. So
it's all right, Coach. Yeah. DB needs a little bullied every once in a while.
Oh, he's that guy.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Hey, so couple things, right? And by the way, like I credit Ravi. He's like, hey, we got to talk to the guy that's coached a lot of these guys that are playing for championships. But I want to start with the Butkus Award with CJ. I mean, you know the journey. He started with you. He's finished with us. It's been a climb, man. How proud are you to coach a national award winner?
Yeah, I mean, with CJ, just knowing him at such a young age and seeing him develop through the years and being such a student of the game and such a great high character kid, I'm so proud of him and seeing him develop throughout the years and being the type of impactful player that he's become, getting better every year, never being satisfied. It's really special when he was presented with that award, that, very prestigious, having Dick Butkus' son come up and give him that award. And it was a process. And for him to get that award, they watched film. They started putting him on a list, 2 years ago. And, we're real grateful that he was able to get that recognition. And it's well deserved. I mean, not so much of his accolades on the field, but kind of what he does off the field with the community and helping others and in his behavior, at school and being a role model makes it real special. And I think he's going to have a great future in Lincoln, and we're going to be cheering him on every step of the way. So we're real proud of him.
It begs the question everybody always asks. You got players that you coached all over the country. Inevitably, coaches always ask you at the college level. I've been in these rooms and in these meetings. Hey, do you even like us? And you're like, inevitably, I root for my kids to be in the best situation possible. It's not about the school. Like, do you like that? Do you like that kind of balance?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about. And I'm all about my guys and everybody says, who do you root for? Ohio State, this and that. I'm from Ohio. Obviously, I have roots there, but wherever my guys are at, that's my team, and I want them to do well and excel, both on and off the field. And I couldn't be more proud of what the guys are doing once they leave here, and they all seem to be doing great things and have such bright futures that it just makes you feel good, and their best days are ahead of them, and you never want their best accomplishments to be done when they're 18 years old. You want them to go out and excel, because the true testament of a coach is not win-loss or what they're doing in high school. It's what they do 20, 30 years down the line, and these guys are getting a great jump start for that. So yeah, I root for them. Number one, I want them in a great place, and I really don't care where it is, as long as they're happy and they're going to be well taken care of.
Coach, it's funny because just the little bit that I know your personality, you could have given me a million guesses, and Ohio would have been my first one on where you're from. You just ooze Ohio, which
Team
is
Youngstown.
I would have guessed Youngstown too, if I'm being honest. So that is intended as a compliment. But being from Ohio, I do have to imagine you're going to be rooting for Notre Dame on Monday with three of your guys in that game. Have you kind of let it sink in that three guys that you coach are playing for a national championship in a few days?
Yeah, I mean, I watch it, obviously the playoff run and what they've been doing at Notre Dame and the success that Notre Dame has had, last couple of years. And, it's truly unbelievable. I just have to pinch myself seeing those guys do that and being big-time contributors with, obviously you got Watts making plays all over the field, and Teddy Resac is contributing on special teams, and Anthony's, doing his part as, you see all the time. He's a scout team quarterback for the opponent, and they're all dressing, they're all there, and they're doing their part, and they're team guys, and they just want to be a part of something special, and they're in a great program there, and I just can't believe it. I tell people back home, and they're like, "So who you rooting for?" I'm like, "It's a no freaking brainer, man. I mean, it's a no-brainer."
Oh man, you can't. Are they kicking you out of your little spot up there in Youngstown? Say it with those words.
Well, yeah, they kind of rub me, and they're like, "Yeah, we get it. Yeah, we get it." So, but there is a faction. I mean, there's a strong Irish Catholic contingent in Youngstown. There are some Notre Dame fans there. So
you comedian, you.
I do got some buddies that root for Notre Dame, but it's kind of fun. So but it is crazy that they are playing the Buckeyes. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of watch what you talk about with what you want out of players, and obviously I'm with you every day. And it's been almost 20 years. It has been 20 years, 2025, where you see a guy like Bo Ryan, who's scout team player of the month, or Trevor Spady, who's had to endure, or Nick Henricks, who's come back from multiple knee injuries, or Caleb, who's had to cut his teeth on special teams first, or Teddy playing special teams, or Anthony, playing scout team, Xavier Watts, who's changed numbers 3 or 4 times before coming in All-America defensive back, right? Offense to defense to offense.
Yeah.
Watching guys persevere, man, that's got to be a heck of a case study, doesn't it? It isn't by accident.
Yeah, they're grinders, man. And, you talk about it a lot. It's part of our culture. It's kind of who we are. It's, you always say it's got to be a lifestyle because
not just words.
Life's going to punch you in the face. Obviously, we know that, and it's how you adapt and react to situations, tough situations. Life's unfair, and you got to battle. You got to fight every day, and these guys do an excellent job of dealing with the ups and downs and the flows of what life brings them, and they just fight, and they have the mentality that not every day is going to be peaches and cream, and they just keep grinding. I had a kid, Alec Cook, who plays for Iowa State.
Yeah,
come in. He's been a walk-on. He don't get a dime, and he just he's worried about making the 105 come the spring, and he's talking about should he stay, should he go, and he's just like I'm going to make it, and I'm going to grind through it. And I'm not that type to give up on a dream, and that kid, I'm just as proud of him as I am, anybody else. And, that's really great to see. And those guys, those are your guys who are going to make it, man. Those are your tough dudes that our society needs and are going to be good husbands and fathers and leaders in the community. And that's what we need in this society today. So it's great to have a little bit of, piece of the puzzle to help them, be on their way to do great things.
Well, Coach, it's easy to see where all those guys get that attitude to learn how to fight the right way with everything you've been through. We just really appreciate you giving us the time this morning, and it's great to hear you doing so well and about getting ready to get back to working out here soon. As somebody who's had to take some layoffs myself from that area, I appreciate how frustrating that can be to not be able to get out there and do one of the things you love.
Coach, the scars look great too, man. And as your appetite comes back, is there a meal you want me to cook, man? You're on our group text. Is there something that you want to?
Yeah, you guys are really getting after that meat. Just give me some leftovers. Everything looks good.
Yeah, you're a lamb guy, right?
I love lamb.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about that. All right, I got you.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Whatever you can do.
All right, Coach, man. Good to hear from you.
All right, guys. Thanks. I appreciate it.
You got it.
We appreciate it, Coach. Get the good Go Irish on the way out.
Yeah, that is wild.
That's awesome.
Go Irish. I'm telling you, I was with him the other day, and he finally got a chance to get his hair cut, and
the
scars are healing up. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I can't.
He's so stinking tough.
Yeah, I was. Because I asked you before we had him, I was like, "Hey, you think he'd be up for it?" And you're like, "Oh, he'll do it."
Was a good pull. Like, I'm surprised you thought of that.
Well,
not that didn't sound right.
I'm surprised you figured it out,
had a
dummy.
Good idea. Shock me. It just caught me off guard because it was a late ad.
Yeah, it was. But I'm glad we were able to catch up with Coach, and glad to hear he's doing so well. Obviously, scary situation.
The working out thing is killing it.
Oh, I get it, man. I get it. When I've had the eye surgeries and I can't do anything, it's brutal.
Yeah.
But it was his layoff's been much longer than mine was. So we appreciate Coach joining us there. And weird to hear a Youngstown guy rooting for Notre Dame, but we love it.
Go Irish.
We'll talk to Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, presented by Centrist Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by our friend Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, what is going on?
Hey, not too much. Kind of a quiet week, relatively. So, how are y'all doing?
I'll say you finally catch your breath a little bit.
A little bit.
I think we got to start right where we kind of left off last week. I think with fiscal savvy and still wanting to be a developmental program. NIL, we get it, right? Live and kicking. Did you just get the sense with kind of these late battles that Nebraska just wasn't going to play the outbid game?
Yeah, that's just kind of where they're at right now. And I think across the board, you look at the additions they made, you look at some of the recruitments they got involved in through the transfer portal and even late in the recruiting cycle. They're not going to be in a position, and they're not going to position themselves where they're only winning recruiting battles off of NIL. Like, that's the only reason they're winning it. Like, they're the highest bidder, and that's the only reason they're winning it. Like, they want to win for a multitude of other factors, but also have a competitive offer in there that does match up with what other teams are throwing out there. But they're never going to be the team that's going to go out there. Some teams are comfortable with that. Some teams are comfortable just throwing the highest number and winning a recruitment outright with that. But Nebraska's not really comfortable with that because they understand long term what comes with that at times is you don't have the prior established relationship. You don't have the ability to hold a player accountable. You have all of these things that come up when you just offer money and nothing else. And so, it's a long-term look. And, it ultimately did lead to, losing out on some targets you maybe would have liked. But at the end of the day, I think everyone they got on campus are guys that want to be here.
Tim, when you look at, I guess when you talk about teams that are kind of more on the, hey, we'll just pay what it takes and go from their model, like, do you have, and I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus here if this isn't like public information.
Missouri.
Yeah, like, what are the teams that are doing that? Because I'm curious, like, long term, I'd like to see how the results differ, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, mention Missouri. Missouri's one of them that has been doing this. And, I will say, like, talking to people on Missouri's end too, they are doing a better job from a staffing standpoint of building relationships and making sure that, hey, we're not just going to be just straight, throwing NIL and we're winning recruitments through NIL. We are going to have that established relationship because they are already starting to see the fallout from that. I mean, Williams and Renari landing at Nebraska and leaving Missouri, part of it was there wasn't really that ability to hold him accountable because they didn't really establish the relationship. And, they kind of just threw a bunch of money at him. Right now, I mean, like, again, Carson Beck entered the transfer portal and within 24 hours was signed to Miami. That wasn't a whole lot of a relationship built in that 24 hours. You know what I mean? So you're seeing it in certain situations. Sometimes it works at the Power 5 level, especially, you're talking about like a Carson Beck. Carson Beck understands what needs to be done in 2025. Carson Beck, I don't think you're going to have any off-field issues with him. You're not going to deal with any lack of accountability because, the pressure's on him as much as it is on Miami here in 2025. He's going to step into a room that, as weird as it sounds, has better weapons, probably is going to be able to protect him a little better because that Miami offensive line is really good. And they've got more on the way. They claim that they've got elite receiver coming with them here in the spring transfer window. So you're seeing that across the country at the quarterback position, at specific, positions of need, offensive line for one. But I do think you're also seeing on the flip side of it, you are seeing recruits take a strategic approach, transfer portal recruits to their, like, Shyaz Pete right now. It is somewhat of a bidding war, but that's always going to be the case with a coveted portal offensive tackle target. There always is going to be something of a bidding war there. For a guy like Pete, he's not just like, he's down to now Michigan and Kentucky. It's all going to be an NIL decision when it comes down to it. For him, it's going to be which situation prepares him best for the league, which situation is going to long-term. He's very thoughtful, like being able to gather stuff on him is a very thoughtful individual. He's going through this process thinking about what's going to help him in the long run, not just what's going to help him in the short run. But what you're also seeing is guys that are trying to capitalize. Something I've heard in the last couple of weeks, specifically with revenue sharing coming this summer, there's guys that are out there solely looking for that last big bag before revenue sharing kind of takes over. And there isn't this opportunity to kind of throw millions of dollars on the table for kids like they are able to right now.
Tim, at least for 1 year, because I think Nebraska is going to recalibrate, especially when they get their numbers back right. And I also agree that it will be a quick stay for some guys that have said yes to Nebraska as like in a tryout basis. Could you see spring if the calendar doesn't help out and things get moved out around for spring ball? Could you see a training camp style for at least the next the next year or so?
Yeah, I think it's a short-term type solution just because I think once everyone's on this 105 roster limit, I think a lot of this noise and
I just said we got to wait 6 more months.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of this moving out and moving in, like this process won't be a long-term effect and won't affect the sport long-term. But yeah, in the short term, I think you are going to see at least a temporary like training camp style. I could see them pivoting to that temporarily. But yeah, I kind of wonder how you approach this very unique spring ball, because for a team like Nebraska and other teams too, I mean, multiple teams are affected by this. Not only are you dealing with kind of this like tryout type basis, the portal is open in the middle of spring ball. Like it's not at the end of spring ball. You don't get this 2-week period after spring ball. You don't get an opportunity to kind of get guys to try it. Some guys are going to have like a bad week of practice. And I'm not going to say that's going to happen at Nebraska, but some guys are going to have a bad week of practice and suddenly they're in the portal before spring's even over. Like that's just going to be a reality of the situation here in a couple months.
TK, do you think they need to, if it kind of turns into this, especially with talking about changing transfer portal windows and things like that, do you think making spring practice sort of a more uniform time is something we'll see, whether it's mandated or it's just a natural kind of reaction to whatever they end up doing with the transfer portal?
I think coaches would like that. I think in general, talking to coaches and especially recruiting assistants right now, I think across the board, like uniform schedules would be very, very helpful. I think across the board, I think all of these coaches and staffers would like, hey, I would like, like, for example, like they're talking about this new 10-day transfer window. Everyone, from what I've heard, is on board with that just because it frees up December a good bit to focus on the bowl game and to focus on closing out the recruiting cycle. And it gives guys a little downtime for the holidays rather than what happened this year where, hey, it's Christmas Day and Nebraska's landing a commit. Hey, it's Christmas Eve and coaches are on the phone late at night trying to do their due diligence to make sure that they're in good position to land this kid that's committing in the coming days. Like they don't want to be in that situation anymore. And it put a lot of guys in bad positions. It created a bit of a mess. So from a transfer portal window, from a spring schedule window to a fall camp and beyond window, I think everyone would just like, a little uniformity across the board.
Oh, that's funny you say that. I just in my head envision guys like Keith Williams and Troy Vincent and Mosey just on the phone all the time at the hotel. It's like it is. You're right, man. I mean, that's about how it went. Like during that Christmas stretch, it was just like it felt never ending with those guys having to pull double duty.
Right. And that just can't happen again. I don't think like for the sake of the sport beyond, what we're talking about, with all of it, like you're going to lose very good staff. You're already seeing some of it, but you're going to lose very good individuals that are in the sport for the right reasons, because the schedule just isn't sustainable. I mean, you guys are just like, hey, prioritizing family time, prioritizing, that little bit of a work-life balance, being able to have, okay, we just went through the grind of a season. All right, December was typically the time where, okay, we focus on the bowl game. It's a little slower. We close out the recruiting cycle, and then we can kind of take a break in the back end of December. Or at least, we can solely focus on our teams and competing. Now you have to deal with so many other things that, yeah, you're going to lose some people if the schedule doesn't change here soon.
Tim, let me ask you, what were your thoughts? Kind of, there was a little shroud, I think, the whole time. Fedoni knew what he wanted to do, but what do you make of kind of the latest news with Fedoni and the NFL?
Yeah, it kind of felt like this was trending that way for a bit. Obviously, he had that, that social media post that was somewhat cryptic, but also, in the comments, he's pretty much confirming that he's leaving the program. And so when we got official confirmation, he's moving on to the draft. he's a guy that I'll say this, from what I've been able to gather from a couple of weeks ago, in the same way that Nate Borgercher entered the transfer portal and got value that, people around here are pretty surprised by. I mean, he got, a legit NIL deal from Texas A&M, which again, people wouldn't really expect he's going to be able to transfer up to the SEC, get like a legit, bag from them. In that same way, I think at the NFL level, this is a draft that is very top heavy in terms of tight ends. You have the Colson Lovelands, Harold Fannons, Mason Taylor, Tyler Warren, so on and so forth. You have 5-6 guys at the top of this draft that are expected to go in the first 2 rounds or so. But after that, it's a steep drop off in terms of talent. I think Thomas Fidone is a guy that a former 5-star, a former elite recruit, former number 1 tight end, is working to get healthy, is healthy, for the first time in a while, has a full healthy offseason. He's a guy that, believe it or not, I know people were skeptical when I posted it yesterday. He's a guy that's going to earn some draft buzz and could potentially sneak into the back end of the draft just because where the tight end position is at the draft. I think there's a need for versatile tight ends right now. There's a need for guys with that frame that can move well the way Fidone can. And yeah, I mean, there's work, and people recognize he's a work in progress. There's things he needs to work on, but it just takes the right coach thinking he can get his hands on him and fix him. For me to see him being like realistically taken in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round.
Tim, how important is the testing going to be for Fidone to give people some assurances that he's not still hampered by all those injuries he suffered?
I think that's really important. I think getting eyes on him, I think, for him, even if it's not the combine, like the pro day, getting eyes on him is going to be really important for a bunch of these teams. Because they just want to see how he moves in space. That's the biggest thing. How does he move? Does a couple months without, strict football training, without having the brace on, does that get him to be a little more fluid? Is he able to move around a little better? How he turns, how he cuts, all of those things. Yeah, I think it's really, really important for him. There's a couple guys in this class, Tommy Hill as well. I think testing is going to be really important because a lot of teams just want to see where they're at athletically coming off some injuries.
TV, when you're taking a look at kind of the staff and how it's been assembled, Nebraska's in kind of a critical phase, right? They're in Owasso. I mean, they're everywhere, right? And so they're a little short staffed. Pro tip, just how organized that they are without having a couple of position coaches kind of in the fold out on the road, but they, at least from our vantage point, don't appear to be skipping a beat in terms of having presence.
Yeah, I kind of appreciated that, and I think it's what you're seeing is the all hands on deck approach. I mean, like, one, credit to Keith Williams. That guy is everywhere, and I feel like he's involved in every single recruitment. Every single recruit I talk to, there's Keith's involved somewhere, and credit to him. Like, he's doing a ton of work right now. But beyond that, like, Jamar Mosey has his hands in a lot of different, in a lot of different position rooms right now. He's working with the DBs, working with receivers and running backs, and, just going around making offers in general, regardless of position. Addison Williams in the same way. I think Addison Williams having the defensive coordinator experience gives him a little, one, ability, but two, like the know-how and the ability to kind of come in as a newcomer, as a first-year member of the staff and say, hey, you know what, Rob, I know you can't make it down to Florida. I'll go down there. I'll go offer this linebacker and visit with him for you. Or Terry, I know you can't make it down to go see this defensive lineman. I'll go down, make the offer, build a connection. I'll do that for you. Because he has that experience as a defensive coordinator, he has that ability to kind of talk across multiple positions and get his point across and be able to speak for the program across multiple different positions, despite only being the defensive backs coach at Nebraska. And, as of yesterday, seems like Terry Bradden is at least making calls. I don't know if he's on the road just yet, but he's at least making calls to recruits. And so that's a big deal. This is the first week we've kind of seen him really start to take an active presence in the recruiting trail. So I'm excited to see how he continues to develop. Beyond that, yeah, I mean, full credit to Keith Williams, like right now, because, yeah, he's the one that's kind of keeping this thing going and making sure that Nebraska isn't really skipping a beat when and I'll say this too, where they do seem to skip a beat, like, for example, communication with Hunter Higgins practically dropped off once Tony White and Terrence Knight left. That didn't feel normal. That doesn't feel like the staff. This staff doesn't just let communication, especially with a priority regional target, just drop off. because a coach left. It's intentional when those things happen. And so that's just, it's worth noting. These, like, if a guy drops off communication because of a staff, like there were a couple of guys I talked to too that, hey, Evan Cooper left and there wasn't a whole lot of communication with Nebraska. Suddenly Philip Simpson's back on staff. You get Addison Williams on staff, multiple South Florida guys with South Florida ties. All of a sudden, hey, Nebraska's back in the mix and they're way up there for me again. Like that, you're seeing that happen as well too. Nebraska's very crafty and picky with what they do.
Hey, TV, when you're kind of taking a look at, you think Nebraska has earned the benefit of the doubt with hires, even though, because they keep things a lot more quiet than most, right? I think the staff does a really good job of minding their own business and doing their due diligence. We just trust the special teams hires so far?
Yeah, I mean, special teams is one we're going to have to see just because, it is a guy that, you're coming off a position group where, it was a guy that Rule trusted for a long time and has had success elsewhere. It just, for whatever reason, didn't click at Nebraska. So I don't think there should be blind trust necessarily, but I do think they're doing their due diligence and going out there and not just making making the offer out to the first guy that wants to be here. I think they're doing their due diligence to find a guy that can change the program. So from special teams down to across other positions, these guys are vetted. These guys are, heralded from Braden to, Addison Williams to, whoever this new special teams coach is going to be. They're all vetted and they all seem, for the most part, as guys that can, improve the program, and they have, somewhere in their resume, there's something in there that gives you a reason to believe they're going to be successful.
We're talking with Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, with all the turnover in assistant coaches, I know we talked about Keith Williams and some of the other staffers, but how important is it that some of those guys in, quote unquote, not on field positions, even though we can't really make that distinction anymore, but in non-traditional position coaching positions, how important is it that there's some consistency among those guys where you do kind of have a face to keep with those relationships?
Yeah, that's important too, because again, for a lot of these younger guys, the relationships are being built with the Troy Vincents, and Chris Coulter's moved on, but like the Chris Coulters of the world, like those early relationships are built with those guys. Keith Williams as well, and that's why Keith kind of is able to maintain a presence with a lot of these guys because he was the first one on a bunch of them. He was the first one communicating with a bunch of them, and so now down the line, you're seeing the 26s kind of step into the spotlight. And, Keith's involved for a big reason. And that reason is because he was the guy that had Nebraska involved pretty early on and has kept Nebraska involved. So beyond Keith, yeah, like Troy Vincent, Avery and a bunch of the like off field, the director of recruiting, on campus recruiting, all of that, having some sustainability there is important for Nebraska. And I think they'd like to keep, a crew or two, if a couple of those people around in those positions for a couple years for that reason.
TV, along this cycle for 2025, and listen, Nebraska, you rather win the offseason than lose it. And so, of course, they've garnered a little buzz. It's transfer portal addition, some way too early preseason hype for the Big Ten. And keeping all that in perspective, are there some teams, or is there a team or two that you think could come from off the radar to the good or to the bad that is not going to be who we think they are in 2025?
Yeah, trying to think to the good if there's any. I mean, this one's not like, but I do think I've been intrigued with the moves that Texas Tech has made through the transfer portal. I think they've done a lot, and I think they've added key positions, and I think they're in position to potentially make a jump. I think Texas A&M has as well. I think SMU has done a good job so far, but just addressing some needs. Yeah, SMU's done some good work, I think. And and quiet as it's kept, they've also they've won some recruitments that people didn't really expect them to. They've kind of thrown some bags around, built the relationships, and done some good stuff there. Another one quietly, I think Utah's done a good job. I think Utah has done a really good job with addressing some of their key needs because they're a program that's
eating their chest a little bit, wanting some independence. Like, could Utah function as an independent?
I think so. Just because they're a traditional program in the sense that as whoever's whether it's Kyle Whittingham or they've talked about Morgan Scalley being the head coach in waiting, whoever's there, it's kind of just keeping the train on track. And they're like an old school, like what Nebraska wants to be, where they develop from the trenches. They develop their program up. They land guys at the high school level, develop them into contributing players, and then they supplement the roster with transfer portal additions and older veterans that they can find. And so I think they've done a good job. A team that I think potentially is going to get worse, and I don't even think worse, I think maybe just stagnate. Alabama hasn't done much. Alabama hasn't done a whole lot to address a roster that does have needs and is losing guys to the next level. I think Texas is going to be more than okay, but I do think Texas probably wishes they had a little more time in the portal. And maybe this changes in the spring for both of these teams. But and even Florida, I'd add Florida into it as well, just because Florida is kind of in a position to make a jump. You have an opportunity with DJ Lagway. They did do a good job with the high school ranks late in the 2025 cycle. But through the portal, I don't think they've done enough necessarily to take the big jump, which, could potentially save Billy Napier's job. I do think they're in position to still win potentially 8-9+ games next year. And I say that for Alabama as well. But this is Alabama we're talking about. Like, I saw like a depth chart prediction from an Alabama writer yesterday, and I'm looking up and down, and I'm like, this looks like an 8-9 win team. And I don't remember the last time I've said that about an Alabama roster, which, again, 8-9 wins, a lot of programs, including Nebraska, would kill for that. But this is Alabama we're talking about. Like, 8 wins won't do. 9 wins won't do.
Yeah, I mean, that gets DeBoer fired, right? Like 8 or 9 wins gets him fired.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, year 2. Yeah, probably. Especially if there's not like significant offensive improvement when it's quote unquote his guy taking over there.
Let me ask you something, T, about kind of the middle of the pack if Nebraska wants to move in. Right? So I'll give you Wisconsin, Michigan State, Illinois, and Minnesota. Who makes the biggest jump out of those 4?
Ooh.
Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Minnesota, and Illinois.
I kind of think it's Minnesota because I do think Minnesota's done a good job through the portal as well. And they took some swings.
Hot bodies, and it doesn't want to pay. He's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He's done a good job. I think they've done a good job. Minnesota has so far. I'm concerned about Wisconsin. I'll say that. I think Luke Fickell's entering this year on the hot seat. I think that's a team that I don't think is done. I mean, they've made a couple moves. They've done a couple of things, but I don't know if you can say that roster is better than it was a year ago. I don't think you can look at this roster right now and say that. And Michigan State, I'm bullish on Aiden Childs and I'm bullish on Nick Marsh. And I think Jonathan Smith's a good coach. And I think, another year could help them improve. I think they make a jump, but not the biggest jump. I think of the biggest jump, I think Minnesota really legitimately makes a chance and takes a swing at like 10, 11 wins potentially next year.
Ooh, that's our guy, Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Tim.
I appreciate y'all.
Hey, make sure if you're on your way to work that you keep your eyes focused and straight ahead. Your job as the driver is to drive. Don't get distracted. Stay focused. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Make sure you get out to supernovas.com. If you can't win tickets with us, make sure you go buy tickets from supernovas.com. Huge match this Sunday against San Diego, 3 p.m. at the CHI Health Center. That's supernovas.com for tickets. They set a opening match record, largest professional volleyball attendance in history on their opening night. Make sure you get out. Let's see if we can set some more records here with the Omaha Supernovas. That's supernovas.com.
With a new league starting in 2026.
That's right.
Isn't that crazy? It seems to be happening extremely fast.
I was thinking about this a lot the other day, actually, because, just with, obviously, you got Omaha Supernovas and PVF. They're going to go off and start Major League Volleyball. And then you've got Love also in town. And
Whip.
you got to whip around to get all those leagues.
Whip.
But, it's funny because something like this has happened with almost every professional league. It's just it all happened 100 years ago, right? So, Major League Baseball, there were like 12 leagues. That's why it's the major leagues, plural, right? Because there was like 12 leagues. You had the AFL, NFL, you have ABA, NBA, right? It just all happened between 50 and 100 years ago. So to watch it happen in real time in an internet social media era, it probably is happening faster than it would have otherwise. But you also look at it and you go, okay, this is pretty normal, and there's going to be a winner, and the market will kind of determine
I do think it just kind of cleans it up a little bit too, because there's a little branding confusion.
100%. Yeah, there's branding. There's been some branding confusion, and also, just being totally honest here, you kind of look at the product, right? And you look at the collegiate level and what we do here in Nebraska and places like Wisconsin and like Louisville and down in Texas, and you go, that feels like a major league product, right? You go around and you're like, we should have a professional league that feels as big as the collegiate.
Just because of the benchmark and the standard that's been set.
Yeah, because you're like, this is capable. Yeah. Like, we're capable of this, right?
Yeah.
And so you see, I think people still see an opportunity there to take professional volleyball to another level, and we'll see.
And good on Nebraska, too, because it's such a good I mean, it's a great wrestling state. It's a great volleyball state. It's a really good baseball state. I mean, we'll get there here in a month or so, but I mean, Nebraska preseason top 25 in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And
23, I believe. Yeah, D1 baseball, 23.
I think 24 maybe, but
okay.
I won't split hairs.
Okay.
I think it's 24.
But yeah, D1 baseball, top 25 preseason. You like to see that if you're Nebraska? You got to get that. I thought you were a righty. You going lefty now on me?
No, something's wrong with my sternum. So I was just.
You seem very hurt.
I'm just
a little tat
stretching. Tat.
Little tat.
No. No. I think so. I want to go back to a question because obviously I do this all the time because people that are excited about growth and development and making moves for Nebraska football, somebody has to get jumped.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to skip a few people.
Mm-hmm.
So I always look at who Nebraska can run down.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's just kind of incrementally how you have to do it, I think, in my opinion.
Because you don't go from where Nebraska's at to Ohio State.
And we totally misread. I don't want to speak for you. I did.
No, I think we both thought Minnesota could be in trouble this year.
How'd you know I was going to say Minnesota?
Because that's the one we missed on. That's the one we missed on was Minnesota.
I mean, what was their win total? 4.5?
5.5? Maybe.
Ooh. Was it?
I think we thought it should have been 4.5.
4, 6, 8.
Like, we thought they could be in trouble this year.
You know what I think is interesting is Michigan State.
That is super interesting because I like Jonathan Smith.
Me too.
But I don't really like Aiden Childs.
Surprised that, I think you quietly, Tim out loud, both called out Wisconsin. Because was that off air?
Yeah,
it was off air. You said, well, I agree on Wisconsin.
Yeah. I don't feel great about it. That seems like things have gotten weird and toxic between Wisconsin's fan base and Luke Fickell in a hurry. The Phil Longo thing got really strange in a hurry as well. And we've seen this here, right?
They were so good on the recruiting trail. So I'm kind of surprised that it's fallen apart internally.
And I like Fickell a lot.
Full disclosure, their co-DC and secondary coach moved on 2 months later.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah. Like I like Fickell a lot. This seems like it's a really bad fit for whatever reason. And we've seen this play out in real time here. When you're having a philosophical shift from where you've been successful, even if you're trying to be more successful than you currently are, people lose their minds a little bit. Like they do. Like it's because you're comfortable with how
it could be anarchy.
You're comfortable with how things are done, but you're uncomfortable with the results. And there's like a cognitive dissonance there, right? Like you want
this dude drop cognitive dissonance. It's a philosophical disconnect, Shane.
Are you more concerned with the first word or the second word?
Just Ravi in general.
Yeah. People are very concerned about me. That happens a lot.
Smoke crack, don't you? Go on, Sam, jump.
Boys in the Hood. It's my guy, Samuel L. Jackson.
Right, yeah.
No, but there's like this disconnect, right? Because you want different results, but you want it the same way you were getting the results before, right? That's what people like at the end of the day. It's like, oh, we like how we do things. We just want you to do it better and win more. It's like, well, that's not always how it works, right? Like Nebraska, back in the day, they would have loved it if Nebraska hired basically Frank Solich 2.0, who could do exactly what Frank Solich did, just like 10% better. Like, that's what we really wanted, if we're being honest.
You think?
I do. I think they wanted things to continue the way they were, just with more, like 1 or 2 more wins a year. Because we get really comfortable with the identity of our program or our state or whatever. And I think Wisconsin was the same way. The biggest difference was Wisconsin doesn't have the national championships to fall back on and be like, hey, this is why we shouldn't have changed things. Because Wisconsin has always sort of perpetually been trying to get over the hump. That's sort of the hallmark of Wisconsin's program, is right there, can't quite get over the hump. And so, but Wisconsin fans, much like Nebraska fans 20 years ago, were really, really comfortable with how they did things. They just wanted it done 10, 20% better, right? They wanted Jim Harbaugh, not Luke Fickell, right? That's the type of person they wanted. Just, hey, better version of what we've got right now. Guess what? You don't really always get to decide that. And if you're not happy with the results, this kind of goes back to our conversation yesterday and all week really about, hey, maximizing what you're doing right now versus taking a risk to increase your ceiling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what Nebraska did 20 years ago.
Can you afford? But so much of it though, young Ravi, is are you guys cool with playing the long game?
I mean, fans usually are not, if we're being honest. Fans usually have.
I don't know if you heard this, but the poster child for the ability to turn a program around, which I still chuckle at, is, I mean, how can Indiana do it? I mean, which was probably the laziest, most short-sighted hot take of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I appreciated the deep dives that we did over those quick turnarounds
mm-hmm.
and long-term sustainability. He's got some frost to him, doesn't he?
He does a little bit. It's like a younger brother.
Because the clock kind of has been sped up, but it doesn't have to be if everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, that's why I think, like, long term, Jonathan Smith is probably okay at Michigan State, and I don't know if Luke Fickell is at Wisconsin. I think you hire Jonathan Smith knowing, hey, it's going to take a couple years. You hire Matt Rule knowing, hey, it's going to take a couple years. Jonathan Smith is about the only guy that survived that 2017 hiring class. The only one.
We kind of act like it's just funny on the heels of the national championship. We kind of act like this has been a slow burn for Freeman. I mean, I think he was 9-4, 10-3, and
yeah, I mean, it kind of has been.
Not really,
sort of, because it's not like he was rebuilding in terms of wins. Like, he was rebuilding how they did things.
Okay, so they go 9-4, then 10-3, then 14-1.
Yeah,
that's not very slow.
I mean, it's year 3. It's year 3 before you see marked improvement. That's
10-3 is better than 9-4, and they've won every bowl game.
I understand that, but it's a one-game improvement. That's not something you look at and be like, oh, big jump there. And where they're starting is drastically different than some of the programs we're talking about right now. Like, they started as a good program. So it's a different metric that we're talking about with Freeman. Because I would argue that it's almost riskier to do.
They started as a real good program?
They started better than the programs we're talking about.
Okay.
Like,
so it's
Brian Kelly left them in a better spot than, like, Scott Frost left Nebraska in.
14-1 better?
No, but it took 3 years to get to that 14-1.
I need clarity. Are you saying it like 3 years is a long time?
I'm saying like it wasn't an instant Signetti turnaround. I think 3 years is a reasonable time frame.
Okay. That's reasonable?
Yeah, I think 3 years is reasonable. I think 3 to 4 years is reasonable.
Because if Nebraska was 14-1 in year 3, but I get it, right?
Yeah.
They're coming from much further back, in your opinion.
I think 14-1 next year for Nebraska would have been, for Notre Dame this year, basically equates to like 9 or 10 wins to Nebraska next year.
I got you.
That I think is more similar. We'll talk about this more coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends over at Centris Federal Credit Union. Make sure you get to centrisfcu.org to check out everything they offer, including help with mortgages. Whether you're looking for your first home, your dream home, or just looking to refinance your current home, Centris has you covered. They're federally insured by NCUA. They're an equal housing lender. All offers subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. Talk to one of their experts today at centrisfcu.org. org. DB,
What's up? So,
go ahead.
no, I just was gonna. Are we talking to Asian Wyatt Shane or not? Because your inability to type is driving me up the wall.
AI Wyatt. Is this fake Wyatt?
All right.
Is this like AI Tomlin?
Who is AI Wyatt? Like, is this
You
artificial intelligence?
pressured me to get it done, so I went right to it. So I wasn't able to finish typing it up.
He felt peer pressure.
Peer pressured.
Wait, how many pressure? How many peers?
Look over on the other thing. What does
Peered
it,
as in like to see?
what does it say up on top where you should be looking?
Like Peerless Price?
He said peer to pressure.
Where are you peering?
Wyatt, good morning. What's up, champ?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. Were you happy I let you off the hook with my my fake kung pao chicken the other day?
Sure, I missed that one, but
I didn't have the heart to bother you. I started to because I wanted to. You know what I would have asked, and this is so ridiculous. I would have asked if I didn't have cornstarch, could I have substituted baking powder to get the silky kind of texture when you saute chunks of meat? Would you have known the answer to that question?
I'm not really a chef. I like food and I can do some things, but I'm not. I'm not that guy.
Well, I thought you knew the secrets, right? Like that's what.
Well, I know I'm Pan Asian, but I'm not. I'm not all knowing Pan Asian.
The pan does not stand for like a pan you're cooking stuff in, DB. That's not what it means.
Wow. Okay.
Across the board. We'll say that.
But did you drop the little terrors off already? Because it's awful quiet.
Oh yeah, I'm at work now.
Oh, okay. All right. What's up?
Yeah. Oh, just saying. When the game comes around, I'll be rooting for Notre Dame. And do you know why I'm rooting for Notre Dame?
Because of the heritage, Coach Freeman's heritage.
Yeah, because are you guys willing to share?
Well, I'll share with you. That's nice. Let's be friends.
Did you guys share Tiger too, or no?
No,
Well,
exactly.
I think everybody had to share a tiger, right? Like, wasn't he? It was like Combination, right?
That's like, because you there's a lot of, we're kind of forgot about with Tiger. So it'd be nice if, we shared Heinz. Heinz was good. So.
Some Genghis Khan in there somewhere.
Somewhere down in my heritage, somebody is probably happy that Genghis Khan didn't survive. So.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of people happy that Genghis Khan didn't survive.
Are you being real? I do. In all seriousness, though, this in your sphere of influence, are you guys aren't most people cheering for Notre Dame? Like, I'm floored.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know a few Ohio State fans, but they're Ohio State fans. So, other than that, yeah, I think consensus probably seems to be leaning towards Notre Dame, which and most of them do acknowledge the point that normally I don't like Notre Dame, but
they like Freeman.
Yeah, and this team, yeah.
Interesting.
So, and then there's obviously there's the local ties as well, so that helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Wyatt. Enjoy your work day, man.
I'll try, man. Appreciate
Thanks, buddy.
it.
That's our guy, Asian Wyatt.
Will I share? Yes, I'll share.
Well, listen, you guys were pretty possessive over Tiger.
Wow. That's not even my fault. It's like the hint of color, and then they're all of a sudden the other thing.
What other thing?
Whatever it is.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Somebody gets a little too tan out there. And you're like...
any hint of mocha, it's just like you're the other. It's like, come on, man.
I'm just saying.
Whatever.
Tiger always got.
I was not possessive over Tiger.
Not like you personally, but like community was a little possessive over Tiger.
Calvin Pete, that's different.
You big Calvin Pete guy?
Sure. I just like the way that sometimes he would wear like those little hats, and you could just see like the little puff of
the hair coming out.
Yeah. Like I'd like to be able to rock that.
Like Fergie Jenkins.
Ooh, that's a deep one.
Deep cut.
Why would you pull Fergie?
I don't know.
Special.
When you describe the hat that way, it's the first thing I thought of.
You know what I almost said, but I made the same mistake with Pedro Guerrero.
What's that?
Not black. I almost said Louis Tiant.
He's
You know how traumatized I was in like the 7th grade to figure out I had that all wrong? I'm like, but he looked like me.
Dude, okay. So have I told you this Manny Ramirez story?
No.
Okay. So when I was a kid,
Big man ram guy?
I liked Manny Ramirez a lot. This was even before he was with the Red Sox.
He's pretty mean-spirited, too. Good on you.
Well,
I wouldn't say that. He just was very particular. But
he's
go ahead.
Eccentric is
Yes,
the word
yeah,
we like to
good,
use.
Good word.
Mercurial. When he had the short hair,
Yeah.
I went to my mom and I was like, I want my hair like that. And she's like, yeah, your hair's not going to do that. I go, what do you mean? And she goes, your hair's not like that. And I was like, well, but he looks like me. If his hair can do that, why can't my hair do that?
Yeah.
And she had to have this very in-depth conversation to me that not all brown people are the same.
Is that where you figured out the whole
And-
chromosome allele thing?
Little pundit squares about I do have very Indian hair. I have very Indian hair.
So, like we had in the group chat,
Yeah.
you're very selective about when you claim that.
I'm only half. I try and split it down the middle.
Was that Matt that said he forgot?
Yeah.
How do you forget?
What do you mean?
How do you forget that it's like,
That I'm only half?
yes.
Well, I don't know. I think because people only, he told the story about one of the other media members in town here. I think that's a lot of people's interactions with me. So I'm sure Wyatt gets that. Like conversations like that a lot.
You think?
Oh yeah. I think any person of somewhat ambiguous pigmentation gets the so where are you from? A lot. Which is better than the I used to get.
What are you?
Yes. I used
that's awful.
most people have stopped with the what are you? That's one of the few wins of PC culture is I don't get the what are you a lot.
Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
you talked about PC culture. Should the Philly fan have lost his job?
Which one? I didn't even see this.
So the guy that had the meltdown, he was talking reckless to the Packer fan's wife. You haven't seen that?
No.
Well, he lost his job and he got a lifetime ban.
I mean, it depends on what he said, but that's pretty aggressive.
I called her out a name a few times.
Yeah. I don't know.
Lose your job?
I'd have to read up on it to have a
Okay,
have a
that's
real
fair,
strong
that's
take.
fair.
I don't want to. I
like the fact that you're not going on hot take.
I don't want to condemn without really knowing the situation there. But no, the I don't get the what are you a lot anymore, so that's nice.
That is the class.
Because I'm like,
so what are
I
you?
mean, what is it? I don't really even know how to answer that. The where are you from is nice because I can kind of troll people a little bit. Because I'll be like, no, I'm from Omaha. And they'll be like, no, but where were you born? And I'm like, I was born in Omaha. And they're like, well, where's your family from? I'll be like, well, my mom was born in Illinois and she grew up in Iowa.
We call that suggestive hinting.
And they're like,
says sharing is caring. I got you. Why?
And then
50 dap.
they'll be like, oh, what about your dad? And I'll be like, my dad's from India. And they're like, oh, that's what I meant. And I'm like, well, cool. All right. Just ask what shade of brown I am. All right. Just ask what shade. That's fine.
There's that old song in the 70s and 80s. You take the long way home.
Yeah.
Whoever sings that song. Like
That's Supertramp.
I don't know if you can say that on the radio.
It's the band
And how do
Supertramp.
you just have that on the Rolodex? This super tramping it, huh?
That's in his wheelhouse, though,
That's a good album.
timeline wise.
Yeah.
Super tramp is?
The time frame of when Supertramp.
Shane,
is
you're
in.
exactly right.
Shane, is super tramp in your wheelhouse?
I'm all about Supertramp.
This is what I've heard about Shane, famously.
I mean, that's totally in my wheelhouse.
All about Supertramp.
It's the long way. So what are you?
No, it's just funny because I like to press the question a little bit just to be like, at what point are you going to ask what you really mean?
Yeah.
And two, can I get you to say something you're uncomfortable saying? And listen, if you're going to it's fine. I'll answer the question, but I'm going to have a little fun first.
Hey, raise your ass.
He's had that conversation. I
Yes,
guarantee you.
you're right. He's like, definitely have got the where are you from, or your English is really good.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I don't get that one as much. I honestly think that is a more
that is offensive.
South Asian thing. Yeah, it's like, oh man, your English is really good.
Surprise, surprise.
Although is that any worse than oh DB, you're so well spoken?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
My own guy got me with that.
Who?
Was that? That was just this week. Stupid severe.
No, that was last week. That was last week.
Oh, is that funny?
Yeah. Well, the whole segment was kind of funny.
Dude, he's nuts.
That was pretty good.
No,
No, you're not a fan.
no.
Despite the way he talks, can be a little black at times.
How are you going to cut that up?
So Damon, in a way, despite the way he talks, can be a little black at times.
Incredible.
I just love the things that Shane's on top of.
We still have like a minute left, so I could play this a bunch.
So Damon, in a way, despite the way he talks, can be a little black at times.
I don't even remember what you were talking about.
Because I ordered my food with cheese. He thought I was being a little ghetto.
With the cheese?
With how I like my Chinese. Yeah. And I don't know how you equate the two.
So Damon, in a way, despite the way he talks, can be a little black at times.
Oh! I've never heard that particular stereotype.
Yeah, but you sure did think it was funny because that's you that's laughing.
Well, I did think it was funny. That's correct. You know, it was...
Saying I'm pretty much out on you.
I just love how that's the thing he's like on the button on. I'm like, hey, can we get Wyatt's name up here? And he's like, no. Can we get DB? DB's still a little black even though he talks nice? Got it. Got him. Coming up next, we got Mike Sautter, Hurrdat Sports. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. We're on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We are joined now by our friend Mike Sautter of Hurrdat Sports, NEBPreps. What's up, Sautter?
Oh, not much.
Jerome, how we feeling?
I'm good. I got the gold lights today for the Golden Domers because, go Fighting Irish on Monday.
Wow, you're rocking. You're rolling with Notre Dame, huh?
Why would I not?
I think everybody is locally. It's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. Have you ever talked to Xavier Watts? You should root for that kid if you've spoken to him one time in your life.
Have I ever talked to
I believe DB is familiar.
I'm not asking Damon. That's a rhetorical.
I will give you a little credit. Because this is back when you were like a super Belgian waffle, and he was afraid to make everybody mad. And the whole Watts versus Betts thing, they're fighting their last year. And he was the only one that I could get to agree with me that Watts was the better player.
Pretty weird how that worked out, isn't it?
Wow.
Guy can't take a compliment.
It's doubling down on shenanigans.
No, I just
like.
That was a real debate.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, I'm just telling. And Z was my guy.
Yeah, I know
right?
you're.
I'm just telling you, like, playing the long game, take X all day long.
Man, what an awesome! What a great.
Dude, people don't even realize that guy went from defense to offense. Back to defense. And it was like, is he gonna make it for you? Right? And he's the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't know him personally the way you guys do, but he seems like a very DB guy. And when I say that, I look at him and I don't know him at all, and I think doesn't need a babysitter.
Nope.
No.
Like that's the first thing I think of just when you hear him talk. You kind of see how he carries himself. And again, I know literally nothing about him except for watching him play at Burke. And I go, doesn't need a babysitter.
I love him in spite of him sending my little dude a snap talking about, hey, man, you better listen to Notre Dame. Don't go to Nebraska. Like, whoa, X. Let's chill out.
Let's chill a little bit.
Let's chill out. They are good, though. That back end is, I think, very underappreciated. I think obviously X gets a lot of run as an All-America, but Schuler, like they're good across the board. I'll be curious to see what they do with their disguise game.
Is you think Watts could be Kyle Hamilton-ish?
No, because I don't think he has those kind of measurables. I was telling Ravi off air, and I could see maybe a fourth round.
I think other people are higher. I was kind of doing some Googling.
I would say third, fourth round.
I saw a second round somewhere.
I hope.
Earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought. I mean,
see. The only thing I worry about with X is the longer the longer time it takes to evaluate, the more you could talk yourself out of.
Kind of like when he was in high school.
Yeah. Although I do remember that broadcast where I think I could be off by about 2 or 3 tackles. I think he had like 18 tackles and a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Does he?
He single-handedly kept them in it. Burks was nice, but
maybe this is a little too close to home. So maybe Mike, you can answer this one. Does like the talk around or the way we're talking about Watts and kind of how he was talked about in high school? It kind of reminds me of Caleb. Like, is he fast enough? Is he big enough? Is he explosive enough? And then you just watch him and you're like, that guy's a really good football player. I'm going to take my chances with a really good football player.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair, actually.
And they get along really well, too.
And they're both like they're really smart football players. They just find the ball. And they're, you underwear Olympics them, and they're not going to turn into.
Funny, too, because it's like all of a sudden when he hits over 20 mile an hour in practice, it's like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't very the 19-9? Like, what are we doing?
Sound like rural. Because he's been in the 19s. What's your problem?
The one word with Watts and then Rizak's is just intention. So, like, it went to Notre Dame for a reason. And it wasn't like, because Notre Dame. No, they wanted to win national championships, and they – like everything they've done has been intentional. It's kind of like the Westside thing. And I did steal that from DJ Rizak when I talked to him earlier this week. So I'm not going to take credit for that. But that's the word. And it just keeps like running in my head like, pretty intentional about like, no, we want to do this right. We want to do that right. We want to go here and train here and with these people. And it's all for a reason. It's not like flash in the pan, new guys doing this and that. No, we trust the people we trust. We're just going to stay the course and do what we do. So kind of a neat story. It'd be fun. It'd be really fun for those guys, obviously, if they were to win a national championship. That'd be pretty cool. And I think a lot of people would be very proud of them for that. And in particular, X, just for the adversity, if you will, that he went through in his college career at the beginning. So it'd be pretty awesome. I know Jeff and Fallon Watts they'd be crying in the stands if they win that thing on Monday night.
Greatest stories ever told, and Fallon is like the incredible partner.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So our second to last practice at school, who do I see getting a workout in, wheeling around the track? Jeff Watts.
Yeah.
Just getting a workout in. I mean, going hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys are complaining about the cold? Huh? Anyway, let me ask you something. I want to go back to last night because we're both big fans. And we thought it would, if Palmer was going to have a chance, it would have to be based on his athleticism to I don't know what you do with Cade, but athleticism not near good enough, huh?
Yeah, Cade's different, special type of person, special type of athlete / wrestler. I mean, 21-5.
Or this morning, he steps on the scale. What do you think he weighs?
Ooh, probably right about like 210-ish.
Oh, it sounds heavy.
He's gotten thick. Man.
I believe me. I study that dude.
Yeah, that dude is wow. The thing with Cade is you have to. He's not going to stop attacking you, mainly hand fighting, and you better match that energy right from the jump. If not, it's a freight train coming at you, and there just isn't a lot you can do about it. The weird thing about it is like Tony Palmer and Cade, they are really, really good friends. So, that one was kind of that was I did text Cade after I saw the score, and I was like, man, you got to do that to your friend, and he just sent me back a praying emoji, which I don't know what that meant necessarily, but
maybe he used it as its original intent, and it was high five.
High five emoji.
Oh,
You didn't
that's it. Huh.
I think it's originally.
Originally
I
it
think
was.
it's meant to be a high five.
Oh, maybe. All right.
It morphed into the.
Turned it into prayers up.
I am praying for your spirit, Jerome Sautter.
A lot of people need to, I guess, at the moment. After watching Nebraska last night, I don't know.
I was gonna say I did want to get to Nebraska basketball before we moved on to high school for the segment, but I know you were there last night. Like, what has gone wrong with Nebraska's defense? Is it just a strategic, philosophical problem? Is it an execution problem? Because as DB said earlier, we're trending now with the defense and them not being to the level where Nebraska can win these games.
Yeah, we're trending so much where they went from 10th to now they're 36th in the country in 3 games. That's not great.
That's a lot. That's. I mean, even I can do that math. That's 26 spots.
Yeah, and in those 3 losses, they've given up 95.3 points. That's a lot too. The one thing, I mean, yes, the Iowa matchup, Iowa's the one that they're gonna want back all year long. Just because you had the lead late and then kind of weren't able to shut off Sanford and Dix at all, especially Sanford down the stretch. Purdue looked like it was basically over from the jump. But last night they had opportunities. I mean, they had 2 separate opportunities to just kind of run away with it, and they let Rutgers back in it. Now, man, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are really good. I mean, you're probably not going to see 2 guys like that for a long time. Just pure talent. Playing in Lincoln, I mean, wowzers! Like they made some plays that you're just like how did Dylan Harper get that pass in there? Like, how did that work? And maybe it didn't get converted. But back to the defense. This is the one thing.
Same vein and say, you know what? You can't let that guy keep splitting double teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was just splitting all night and either getting to the rim or making a pass, which then turned into, because collapsing defense turned into a long skip pass for an open 3. Like that was that's where this defense has because that weak side help comes through with the rover, and people have figured out they'll just make that skip pass across, and that when that weak side help comes, that leaves somebody open on the backside, and they're finding that backside player. And transition threes and transition defense has been a pretty big problem in the last couple of games. Hey, and Nate Lenzer, I trust 100%, no question.
You know where I felt like he was in a little bit of trouble was during the Purdue game, during one of the timeouts. He was having to implore his guys to play hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, ooh.
That's not a strategic issue.
No.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, Purdue was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Nebraska just didn't even need to get on the plane, much less get off the bus. So, it was over fast. It was like they didn't want to be there. Obviously, I was not there, but just watching it, the effort and walking back to the huddle, real mopey and stuff like that. Just the body language was bad. Last night, body language was fine. It was good. No, there was none of that. I think, frankly, this is the craziest thing. They were 45% from the field, 41% from 3, and lost the game. They had 25 second chance points to Rutgers 19. They only had 8 turnovers. They had 25 bench points.
It was defense.
Yeah, I mean, that is if you just look at the data like that, you should not lose the game. Now, missing 10 free throws is a problem.
Which has been also a theme during this lull, because up into Iowa, and that's when it started, they couldn't make free throws to kind of quell the run.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good free throw shooting team.
Yeah, they were shooting a plus 70%, plus 75%, something like that, for a long stretch there. So getting it fixed is not going to be super easy, because you go to Maryland on Sunday, and it's another 11 a.m. game. But I will tell you, those players,
they'll be up.
Yeah, they'll be up for that game, and it'll be a kind of sleepy crowd, I think, in Maryland. Just because
Can I ask something without playing the homer angle?
Yeah.
Because we watched both of them in high school, and I've seen Kale, for a little longer than Sam. But could I make the case that Kale may have a little more upside if he got Sam's minutes?
Ooh.
Am I doing too much?
Maybe. I know they trust Sam a ton.
Oh, I get it. But sometimes with time, you get a little longer leash, and it allows you to play freer.
Right. Sam had a very good night against Purdue. He played pretty well.
Turned him over a couple times.
Yeah, but last night he did not. He was.
Which begs the question, because I was just looking for another option.
Yeah.
Not Ulyss.
No, Ulyss did give a couple good minutes, plays, I guess, late in the first half. But Sam last night was minus 14, and that's the lowest on the team last night. It just is a tough night for him. Obviously, guarding Dylan Harper is going to make people look bad all the time. But yeah, maybe you throw some length on him, and maybe Kale can cut into some of those minutes. Is probably a good point. But can Kale guard, a point guard or switch quick enough and all that? If Kale had Sam's quickness to go, the height, I guess, and length a little bit that Kale has, maybe that is something that could work. But I don't know. I do feel bad for Bryce Williams because that dude was hooping last night, and kind of came out with
starting to put it on the deck a little more too, which I like.
Yeah, that mid-range stuff, like a pull-up.
Just hunting shots, right? If they're going to have a guy try to go get buckets, you want to start with probably your best player.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the clear offensive go-to guy that is that. Burke, Books, and Joe can't be that bad either, though. Too.
I think I'm off of that expectation, and I hate to quit because I'm emotionally competitive. But I've been willing this in my head and trying to speak it into existence. I just don't think it's not in the cards. I don't know if it's fitness. I don't know if it's like just balance. He gets knocked. I don't know. I just don't. The shot looks really nice, and you're like, ooh, he's a good passer, but it just doesn't quite.
It doesn't come together.
Yeah.
He has about 2 or 3 plays a game where you're just like, what are you doing? Like, what? How did that happen? Last night I even was like, what is he doing right there? Like, he just, it was in the second half late, and he just, it was a loose ball, and he went for it out of bounds, and it was clearly off the Rutgers guys. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? He does those plays all the time, and then travels. He's, Nebraska has a bad turnover problem, meaning they make just bad turnovers, non-steal turnovers, bad decision stuff. And a lot of that is him. So what, I don't know, but I don't know what the answer is there. Cause who are you going to, play instead of him?
Morgan. I got to think about that.
Yeah. Sautter, let's switch gears. Got about 5 minutes left here. Let's switch to the high school slate. Where are you at this weekend?
Better be Papio South.
What did you say?
You're not going to Papio South?
Hey, there's a thing that I've done for a long time. It's called the Game of the Week. And it's something where I put 4 options for people to vote for me where to go. And I can't help it if I put a game up for somewhere for me to go and it doesn't win. And it's on the same night as the game that you were just talking about. That's not my fault. I gave it a chance.
So where are you at? Where are you headed tonight?
Prep Westview is my game of the week tonight. So Creighton Prep and Westview. Westview's kind of a little on a nice little heater here a little bit. So,
you know what's funny? I got into this was the night of the Westside Prep game. It wasn't quite a knockdown drag out. I felt like it was very educational. I had a guy, I wouldn't even call him a buddy, just an associate, knocking Westview's wins, like quality wins, and I said, hey, no disrespect to your guys, but who's Millard North's best win? Right? Like you can't in one hand knock Westview for what you think is a perceived light schedule, but like rally for the Mustangs without really a great win. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Like no doubt, no question. I mean, Westview had a big win last week. Millard South and beat them. So,
although Millard South's got to get healthy.
Yeah, I think they just had all this momentum.
You lose two, like they get healthy.
Yeah, they were riding some football momentum, maybe just like confidence and stuff, like that. The basketball team saw the football team do that, and then they maybe at the beginning, and now they're maybe getting figured out, or they are banged up. I know Jensen's working his way back and all that, but Westview is pretty good. This matchup is interesting because I just don't know who's going to guard Trinell Parker.
Sometimes he does.
Well, yeah.
So like I think TP's game is up to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he does get checked out mentally, I'll say at times. And then like a Cooper Knight is going to have a big night.
How about his emergence?
Yeah.
He quietly helped keep Prep in it late against Westside when they made that run. I like Knight a little bit. Kind of underappreciated too.
Yeah, well, he's just kind of came on the scene-ish, fully this year. So, and then, for Westview, Amir Martin is playing well.
Got it well the other night.
Yeah, he's not kind of just taking the wild shots and doing stuff. He's kind of being an in-system guy. And I don't know, outside of maybe, a handful of guys in Class A, and when I say handful, I mean like Bryson Ball, is anybody playing better than Taven Zephyr Murphy right
now? No, and he plays hard.
Right.
They finally hit that rhythm where his athleticism and the freedom that he gets to just go play ball, like that dude stuffs the stat sheet.
Right. And that's what I mean. He's just killing it for them. So that gym should be pretty packed tonight because there's the Marion girls game before that, and Westview girls had a big win last night against Bellevue East too. So it'll be interesting
for Bellevue East. I don't know why. I just am.
What'd you say?
I'm quietly cheering for Bellevue East girls.
Yeah, I think it's because of Coach Lanier is like such a great dude. It's part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's kind of part of it. So, but the Westview or Westside Papio South game rematch of the Metro Finals coming up tonight too. So I think that one will be pretty. That'll be pretty fun.
What happens with Millard North, Millard South? Do you think?
Oh man, can Millard South? When I say punch them in the mouth, I don't mean like actually. Can Millard South physically just push them around, and will Millard North respond to that?
I'm going to ask you about one more team, and because they have some good wins and some kind of puzzling losses, but they get Pius tonight. What about Pius and Papio?
Yeah, I don't know. Papio's win against Papio South last week, they were winning by 20 at one point, ended up winning by 10.
They beat Millard South. They have some good wins.
Yeah, and their size they're just huge. The football guys are just monsters. So, if Bryce Vignes is hitting step back threes for Papio High, I'm not sure how you're going to beat him because that's rare. But he's a really good offensive lineman. So yeah,
and my boy Maley.
Yeah, he I guess he had a couple months like a dunk or something in the game too. Or no, he had a 3-2 in the game. Like if those guys are hitting threes, you're not beating them. Yeah.
That's all right. Mike Sautter, Hurrdat Sports, NEBPreps. Mike, enjoy the hoops this weekend, and we will talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah. Go Huskers against Penn State tonight. Good luck. That's going to be tough.
We were talking about that earlier.
I'm excited.
Crossing our fingers. That's Mike Sautter. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and it is time for Bet On It, brought to you by War Horse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's in Lincoln or in Omaha. Get to the casinos and place your bets right there live and in person.
You are looking like
Big Keith Jackson guy.
I did love old Keith, only because of what he said about Grant Wistrom.
Make sure you get out to warhorsecasino.com to check out all they have to offer. DB,
what would you like today?
we got some games.
I know. We're going to have to go football, aren't we?
Well,
NFL.
listen.
I always hate when you ask me a day early.
I know. We don't have a show tomorrow.
Wait, we don't?
No, or Sunday. It's called the weekend, DB.
You can't stand
What happened? Like, ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
He did have a great press conference yesterday.
Who?
Day before yesterday, Tomlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, we listened to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate Tomlin. Listen, I'm not a Tomlin hater. I like Mike Tomlin.
He's got a lot of them out there now.
Message. Save your time.
I do.
He's got a lot of them out there right now.
Yeah, I was the one defending Tomlin about the ridiculous take of, he's too good. That's why the Steelers are bad. I'm like, listen to yourself. You sound like an idiot.
Yeah, people can make you dumber.
They'll never be able to bottom out. Okay, cool. That sounds like a positive thing. You know where teams have, and he brought this up yesterday,
And
there's been some teams that have found some good quarterbacks not in the top 5 picks.
Yeah, I felt like that was a little bit of a reach, but hey, let's go,
It
Michael.
is a little bit of a reach, but it's also, it's not like picking in the top 5 guarantees you a quarterback.
I'm with you.
You know how many of those guys bust? Most of them.
Like in Canton.
No, not that one. That you want that bust. I mean, bust is in like Tony Mandrich.
Oh, gotcha.
You like that pull?
I did. It's better than LP, which is the other one that gets lumped in there. with
No,
Bandage.
I was either gonna go Ryan Leaf or Tony Mandrich.
Okay, thank you.
The Incredible Bulk. You remember that cover?
Oh yeah.
Sports Illustrated?
Yep.
Yeah. You know what's funny about him is he actually ended up having a nice career as a guard.
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, like after he kind of got off the juice and
Reinvented himself.
Yeah, reinvented himself as a guard. It's like, he protected Peyton Manning for a while. Like he had a good career.
Yeah.
Sorry, draft deep cuts. I like, I told you, I'm a draft nerd. Like I love it.
No, I like it because guess what?
It's coming up.
It's in my
It's
wheelhouse.
coming up. I'm excited. I'm get combine going.
Yeah, so I always like to do one. I'm just going to give you a precursor of maybe not best, but safest. Like I always have to get into that because I think,
like guys, you think are, hey, this guy is going to be
because I think I'm
guy.
like 4 or 5 of 5
on your safest bets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm running the risk of not being right this year.
Okay.
Because I went with Alt.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's a little disagreement out there. He got whipped
a little bit
late, but I think he had a pretty good season.
What is there anybody else you're even looking at considering
For safe this year?
For safest bet?
Well, there's no Nelson. I remember we went with Larry Donald. Nelson was in there. Somebody beat out Derwin James. Who was Derwin James here? Was it Nelson maybe?
Let me look.
Because I wanted to go with Derwin James because he's one of my favorites.
Oh, you're a big Florida State guy like me.
No, but I did watch. Whose hat ceremony did I watch Saturday during the Army Navy All America game? Was it Tiger McMillan's son?
Oh
no, it was Dexter. Who wore 13? I can see his name and I can see it in my sleep.
I don't remember at the game.
Played running back for Florida State. Wore 13.
I don't know.
Dexter Williams, maybe.
What years are we talking?
Come on, man. It's easier for the name than the year.
Not for me.
Is it Dexter?
For number 13 Florida State running back?
Yes.
Well, maybe.
I got nothing.
Anyway, watched his son commit. I think he went to Louisville.
So 2018 was Derwin James's. A lot of people had Saquon as the safest pick. You had like a Denzel Ward.
Nope.
Bradley Chubb.
Nope.
Quentin Nelson's in that draft.
Yeah, that was so I
yours.
took Nelson over James.
You had like Roquan Smith.
That was a good draft.
A really good draft. And then you have
that was a good year.
Vita Vea's in that draft. Minka Fitzpatrick's in that
you
draft.
see that dude losing his mind on the sidelines the other day?
Yeah. I mean, Derwin James went 17.
I know.
That's
I
wild.
think Donald was 12th.
Aaron Donald?
Yeah. No, it wasn't that
No,
year.
no, that wasn't.
Yeah.
But
But
Vita did go 12th, though, same as D.
But I'm like,
that's a hell of a draft.
yeah. And I felt like somebody was getting a steal with Derwin.
And Lamar Jackson's 32 in that draft.
Wait, was he?
Yeah.
That was a heck of a year.
How do you feel if you're the Arizona Cardinals and you're like, yeah, we like Josh Rosen more than Lamar Jackson?
So somebody on TikTok was playing all of Colin Cowherd's bad predictions.
Yeah.
And they just kept looping his Darnold and Josh Rosen
those takes.
pontifications.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I didn't think Josh Rosen could be good. Here was my issue with the Josh Rosen narrative, was that people were like, oh, he's too smart. That's the thing you kept hearing about Josh Rosen. I go, hey, if that's the only issue, that's a dumb issue.
Outside of the hot tub and the renovation of the room and all of that.
I thought that was Leinart.
No, it wasn't.
Leinert's the hot tub guy.
He was in a hot tub. Rosen had the hot tub in his room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Leinart was the hot tub picture.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, I didn't have an issue with that. Like, I don't know, quarterbacks are going to be quarterbacks, whatever. But the biggest thing I heard was like, oh, he might be too smart. I'm like if that's your reason, that's dumb.
Oh, I forgot about this.
What? What do we got?
T-Mac just sent me, that was draft night with Lamar Jackson.
Oh, Lamar taking a little nap?
I forgot all
I did
about
too.
that, T-Mac.
I think everybody else is the one that feels bad for sleeping on him now.
Ooh-wee.
But to go to Tomlin's point, like, yeah, it's a little bit of a misnomer, but, you know, you got Jalen Hurts, second round. You got Lamar Jackson, late. You know, there's not a ton of guys. You probably if you're looking late in this draft, you're probably looking at a Jalen Milroe, or late first, early second, is probably that guy, depending on how you feel on Quinn Ewers, which I don't.
I'm traumatized over big, strong arm, not accurate guys.
Yeah.
I can't.
Because they almost never work out.
I just can't get into it. I don't know how Allen is doing what he's doing, but
he's the outlier that makes everybody believe they can do it, right? There's always one that you're like, oh, they did it with this guy, it must be doable, instead of looking at a guy and saying, oh, that guy's a freak exception to this rule. We probably shouldn't, because like most guys don't ever fix accuracy. If you're inaccurate, you're inaccurate.
And I just watch this too much now. It's like that arguably would be my number one characteristic.
Accuracy?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think it's the hardest thing to fix.
Like, it's just crazy. Like, I watch golf, and at no point do I think he's throwing an incompletion.
No, just dots.
It's like
just dots.
I told you about the ball where they showed the end zone view from Stafford with the little layered route.
Stafford's unbelievable, and he's got a cannon too. Like, that's the thing with Stafford.
I'm like, no, there aren't a lot of guys that are making that throw.
No, not even a lot of guys are trying that throw.
So it's just like, I don't know.
But Josh Allen had to literally retrain his body how to throw a football in order to do
out
this.
on Melrose.
That's fine. I'm saying he's a guy. That's a guy that's going to go in that range that Tomlin's talking about.
Since we got our segment and we were down to a minute 46. AA Ron has a question for you.
Let's do it.
How is UCLA favored by 7 over Iowa? I think that number's right, though. By the way,
I don't know.
I think that's a good number.
You think?
And I certainly would not bet Iowa on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel good. UCLA is a total stay away for me right now until we see what they are.
Fade?
I don't know if it's a fade. It's a stay away.
UCLA is playing in a game where the total's over 150.
It's a total stay away. I have no idea what that team is going to do on any given
Gun
day.
to head, AA Ron, I will take UCLA.
Yeah, because
I'd lay the 7.
Yeah, I'm staying away from everything.
No, I would too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but if you have to.
Yeah.
Let's do these NFL games real quick here in our last minute. Kansas City is a
Give me
big.
the Texans.
You want Texans -8?
Yep.
All right, we're doing Texans -8.
The hook.
It lost it last night. I'm double checking.
Right,
yep.
24-16 final.
Still at 8.
It'll be a Randy pusher.
Commanders 9.5-point dogs to Lions.
Don't love it. I'd probably lay the 9.5.
Okay, got the Lions. Rams 6.5-point. Back up the hook.
I would actually lay the 6.5.
You like the Eagles there?
Yeah, I'd lay the 6.5. I know it's a long way.
I'm going Rams.
Okay.
I think I like Rams money line there, if I'm being honest. Ravens still the 1-point favorite at Bills.
I like the Ravens, although I did see 13 and 70% chance of snow. If you'd like to lock it up in college hoops.
Yeah, give me your locks.
Georgetown, 8.5 over DePaul. Ohio State, 6.5 over Indiana. And my favorite is St. Joe. They'll win outright. Getting 2 from VCU.
Those are DB's locks. That's Bet on
Lock it up.
Brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. We've got our guy Matt Vrzal coming up next to wrap up the week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show and wrapping up the week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, as we always do, with our friend Matt Vrzal, former Husker and owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. What's going on, Verse?
Man, boys, how we doing?
Matty, what's up, bud? How are things?
You getting spam calls at 9:44 on a Friday morning? Nothing like it. Shout out Verizon for selling off all of our information when we renew our contracts.
Wow, is that what happens?
It is.
I think everybody.
That's why they always uptick at the first of the year. The city sells you off too.
Great.
I think everybody's selling our information these days.
The more you know.
I've sort of given up on it, if I'm being honest.
I gotta save this for later, but.
Oh boy.
I found somebody. I will reveal who it is. I found somebody that makes the exact same hand motions that you do. It is. I mean, it's scary. It is scary how close they are to like all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you gonna share? Or
you're not gonna like it.
Why?
I don't know. You're just not gonna like it.
Well, who is it?
I don't know if I want to get you mad right now. Let's get some questions going, and we'll see how the day goes.
See how the day goes, huh?
Verz, as we we'll try and move past that here. As we get into kind of shifting gears from, looks like the transfer portal class is mostly completed, and Nebraska has a decent idea of who they're going to have in spring practice. DB's kept bringing this question up about if you need to restructure spring practice in a way that sort of emulates basically a training camp for the NFL or mini camps, where it's almost a tryout or audition process as you try and get this roster down. Is that something you can envision or that you think is even beneficial?
I don't know if it's restructuring practice. I don't go to many spring practices, so I don't really know how they operate a whole bunch. But if you want to be a physical football team, you have to practice physically. Now, the thing I would love to see that would emerge from this offseason, especially going now into the winter conditioning, which Damon will tell you a lot of our leadership came out of that group or those exercises, because you would have people that stepped up, and if they thought people were slacking off, they let other people know that was not acceptable. So that would be something more along the lines of an immediate need right now, maybe correcting some behaviors of some people that maybe are out over their skis a little bit, thinking they're a little bit cooler than they are. But yeah, if you don't like that's the great part about it. Like, if you don't like how things are going with your organization, just switch it up. A place I used to work at, the boss had a phrase that said, "If it ain't broke, break it." So, I mean, his thought was, if you're doing it this way and it's going good, break it and try something else and try it differently. Now, it works both ways. If it isn't going well, then you can break it and try it again. But whatever that they have to do to become more physically dominant in the lines of scrimmage, I'm good with that. I'll support it 100%.
When you're talking about like numbers and 105 and who knows whether they'll ever come up with like a taxi squad or something like that. But like you need bodies up front, man. You see these guys like committing going for just certain number of bodies to a position group like you would see at the professional ranks.
I think you can tailor it to that. Now, your depth issue, most people say, "Oh, it's double the NFL, so I'll just double blah 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 blah." I'm like, you can't really do that. But if you have a main focus or your centralized focus, like are on the offensive and defensive line, I think you're going to be a lot better off than most. Now, with the rules in JUCO and NAIA not counting, like I would make some very serious phone calls and say, hey, we're going to come park these linemen at your school for 2 years. Here's how we want them taught. Here's what we want them to do. You can use them for those 2 years. They're going to make you better because we like them and you should really like them. And then we're going to come get them in a couple of years and they're going to have 4 more years still in college. So that would be maybe a way I would look at taking some of my developmental guys to do it. But that way I can stockpile even more. But at least 3 deep. Well, man, I would be at least 3 deep on the offensive line, and I would probably be 4 deep on the D line. Is the minimum, the bare minimum I would have. I'd probably try to stay 4 deep on both sides.
And we're talking to Matt Vrzal, former Husker owner of Pisons. Verz, is there anything you saw? I know you did a bunch of deep dives on some of the linemen in the portal, and Nebraska really just landed the tackle Pritchard from Alabama. Have you kind of done your eval on where that group stands now and how you feel about that depth that you've been talking about?
To me, it's the same thing. They all possess the size and the body style, I guess, that they're looking for. For me, it's how the young ones will come in, because I think the young ones are more athletic than some of the older ones. The reason I'm a big fan of Evans Jenkins, or just Evans now, is because he was easily the most athletic, and it wasn't close. I'm excited. I hope Sledge gets a shot in there. He's an athletic kid. He's played multiple positions. By the way, shout out to Cam Jurgens, just destroying the league at center where he should have been in high school and where he ended up being in college, but is having a hell of a run right now. But the overall athleticism of the position needs to be better, and that's just a fact. We get in good position to start blocks, but then the real work of it happens, and we're not athletic enough to maintain the block. So those things would be things I would look for. A little bummed out they didn't get a couple other guys that I thought were attainable for them, but I'm not there every day, and I just make peace and talk to you guys on Friday.
You're just here so you won't get fined?
Yeah, can I say that one week? I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah. I don't know if we have the ability to fine you, but sure.
Well, I can get you fined.
You can get us fined. I don't think we can get you fined. That's the difference.
Don't you Shiite yourself. I can get you fined.
I didn't realize you'd converted, Verz.
Yeah.
Verz, how's the shop looking this weekend?
It's good. It's this time is everybody's still lying to themselves. They got New Year's resolutions that they're trying to stick to. But no, we had a banger. First 2 weeks of the year were really good. They're usually traditionally slow for us, so we got off to a fast start, and now we'll see. I think this will be the last nice day of weather for a little bit, and it's going to get a little brisk. So we'll see how the good people of Omaha react to that one.
Verz, all in or all out on snow?
There's a caveat. I love the powdery snowball snow. I hate the styrofoamy squish under your feet snow. Like, if you can get out and you can get some good solid snowball sledding snow, I'm in. 100%.
I can get down with that. You got to be able to do something with it, right? It can't just be the nuisance.
That little wispy stuff that just lands and blows around is annoying.
I like it. Vrzal here for practicality, even in the snow.
You want to know who it is?
Yeah, I do, actually. I really do.
Kind of eating at you, right? You were very quiet today. You did ask me a question.
He's not feeling great either. That's part of it.
Okay, this is not a political statement.
Oh, boy.
But you and Gavin Newsom have all the same emotions.
Wow.
Dude, I watched that. Listen, that. No ill will. I watched that dude do a press conference, and he gave this one, and then he gave a couple of these, and then he did some other stuff. I was like, this is Damon. Like, that's Damon's. That guy stole Damon's hand motions, and there's a copyright on those, and we're going to sue his ass.
Wow.
DB here, the governor of California. That's
That guy's getting killed.
I'd vote for you. If you want to go out and take over California DB, I'd vote for you.
No way, man. No. That place is a grade A debacle.
We'd be rich though. Like I'd be your lieutenant governor.
Yeah, for like money laundering or something.
Yeah, that's fine.
Those lucrative.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. It's over anyway. California's gonna fall in the oceans. We're good.
Oh, not yet, man. My sister's still out there with the kiddos.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, out there. She's a Bay Bridge.
Oh, she's up north, though, isn't she?
She's a NoCal.
Hey, do we wonder what Nebraska baseball is going to do, being that one of the stadiums they're going to play in is burnt to the ground? Are they going to change all that?
Yeah, they'll move it. How about them with a preseason?
Pepperdine?
How about them with a preseason top 25 ranking?
Should be solid.
Yeah, I
mean,
agree.
they
got some depth too.
See what happens. They do. Yeah, they got a nice amount of depth, so we'll see what happens. Hey, last question for you before I go.
Yes.
What side of the Shrine Bowl is Scott on?
I think the South, but don't quote me.
Oh.
Why?
Well, Cashman made the Shrine Bowl, so then he'll be on Van Dyke and Kaliga's side.
It's better than the alternative, that's for sure.
I'm sure they may exchange some stories.
That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Pisons. Verse, we appreciate you as always. Let's get those hand motions going. You like it?
No.
There we go. Verse, have a good weekend, bud. We'll talk to you later.
It's cool.
That's Hurrdat Sports Radio for the week. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you on Monday.